On behalf of the members of the Chesapeake School Board, I wish to express to Dr. Sanders, the director of the Great Bridge High School Chamber Singers, our sincere thanks and appreciation for giving so much of your time in support of our December 12th meeting. Again, you made it very special. Thank you for bringing the students to the meeting and allowing them to share their love of music during the special holiday presentation. We're now going to move on to the public hearing for the superintendent's proposed capital budget. Has anyone signed up to speak about the capital budget? Dr. Smith.
No, sir. No one has signed up to speak regarding the capital improvement plan.
Okay, now we'll probably move to the meeting reason why everyone's here. It's our hearing of citizens. Okay, Dr. Smith, are there any citizens who have requested time to speak this evening?
Yes, Chairman Murphy, we have 68 citizens requesting time to speak.
All right. Before we begin, I'd like to say a few words. It's very important that we as a board and as a community hear from each other when difficult issues arise. As you know, we are discussing an issue later tonight that many in the room have strong feelings about. Tonight's meeting is intended to provide an opportunity for citizens to voice their concerns in a safe environment. We need your help to make that happen. We want to hear what you have to say, and we want to know your thoughts on the issues before us. We are asking for your cooperation tonight and following of our rules of decorum. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the board. The speaker's own comments are welcome, but you may not play pre-recorded messages. Once your allotted time is over, we ask that you promptly exit the podium so the next speaker can be heard. You may choose to sit in the boardroom if there's space available. If seats are available, but standing on the floor or sitting or blocking the doors is not permitted. We also ask that you refrain from any behavior that disrupts the meeting, including the use of profanity, applause, cheering, or jeering, or holding up signs or anything else that might distract from the meeting. Above all, we ask that you demonstrate the same dignity and respect for each speaker that you would like to have extended to you. Dr. Smith, please call our first speaker.
Thank you. I'd like to invite speaker number 1 to the podium. Speakers will be called to the podium in numerical order and will be asked to state their name and city of residence for the record, at which point their time will begin. I'd also like to invite speakers number 2 and 3 to please come forward. We have space in the front row for our speaker queue, so you'll be on deck.
Okay, before we proceed, Ms. Nichols, your time hasn't started yet. If your speakers 2 and 3, we're going to try to have, basically, I used to coach baseball, so we have someone's at bat, someone's on deck, and someone's in the hole. If you're on deck and in the hole, please come up to the front row so we know you're here. If you don't come up to the front row, we're going to figure you don't want to speak, and we'll move on to the next speaker. So the clerk will call you. I know you have a number. The clerk will call. Right now we're on speaker 1 and speaker 2 and speaker 3. So when speaker 2 comes up, then 4 should come up. So please try to follow that. It saves everyone a whole lot of time, and we appreciate you being here. Good evening, Ms. Nichols.
Good evening. Vic Nichols, Chesapeake. On this last time, I would like to honor our 3 doctors on the school board and city council. Dr. Pat King, Dr. Eller Ward, and Dr. Wanda Bernard Bailey. With the suicide rate, anxiety, depression, the recent stats I saw were that 70% of students are having mental issues. This is where free inquiry, rationalism, and man's thought leads us to. One of the things we need right now is getting back to God. Somebody made the comment in regards to these issues is that accepting something doesn't mean you have to like it, and it doesn't mean you have to support it. Well, I think we were told that about COVID shots. We were told that about kids not even knowing whether they're male or female. They don't even know what they are anymore. This is what man has gotten us to. It's putting himself up as God. And I'd say that the crime statistics certainly show what happens without them. Whether it is quote unquote accepted or not, being there still represents a problem. And it's one that one Pennsylvania school said no to. Because more than anything, what I've watched over these years of getting up here and speaking is it turns out to be it's all about the adults. It's not what the kids need. Whether it's saying no to them when they need it, or maybe sending them to a place where they'll actually learn what it means to be someone and to be loved by somebody who sacrificed his own life for us. I don't see any other side professing that. Thank you.
Speaker number 2, we'd like to invite you to the podium. I see speaker number 3 is in the queue. Speaker number 4, we have space for you in the queue as well.
Good evening.
Good evening. Brian Keel, City of Virginia Beach. Quick recap for those at home and here in attendance. My wife, Mrs. Keel, is herself an alumni of Chesapeake Public Schools and has been teaching with an immaculate record for the city for over 30 years. She got screwed by the men at the end of the bench collectively by the elected and appointed officials of this board. And when I use the word screwed intentionally, as that was a direct quote by a board member, along with other more colorful testimony when speaking directly with Mrs. Keel after the board's sham hearing in her matter. And Mrs. Keel's story isn't altogether the exception. Incompetence exists at all levels of Jared Cotton and Brian Austin's administration. This board has been negligent in blind loyalty to those two men and has failed repeatedly to exercise its diligence and responsibilities in HR matters. Unless the board has voted behind closed doors to change a core tenet of its official duties, then you are still responsible for monitoring the employment, placement, and promotion of school employees. I imagine your negligence to be more engaged in future HR matters will continue. This board has not challenged or overruled a single significant staffing mandate or recommendation from Jared and Brian. You absolutely sat on your hands and refused to so much as meet with Mrs. Keel on her appeal of an egregious administrative transfer she was given for providing a professional opinion that she earned related to an underexperienced and perhaps egomaniacal new principal in Chad Foltz at BRI. No, not only did you refuse to meet, not a single one of you so much as called or emailed Mrs. Keel to get her story, you instead chose blind loyalty to Jared Cotton and Brian Austin when Jared's attorney told the board to keep its mouth shut, no further communication. I think you were more than happy to oblige. You still haven't reached out to her. Every member of the board whose term came to an end this year decided not to seek re-election. The citizens of the city are grateful for you stepping aside. There is a constituency of voters that are not, and not an insignificant one, that wishes the rest of you to resign. Because of your negligence in the matter with Mrs. Keel and general passiveness in other HR duties that have risen to the awareness of this board, I'm assisting a group of citizens here in Chesapeake with an election recall process pursuant to Article 7 of the Virginia Code, removal of public officers from office, Section 24.2-233. Employment in this building should not be a place for teachers and principals to slow walk their way to retirement. Teachers that do not want to teach and principals that can no longer administer effectively should simply quit. Human resources for an organization like Chesapeake Public Schools should be managed by seasoned HR professionals with decades of HR experience. There are thousands of employees in Chesapeake Public Schools, so why is the director of HR a guy that was essentially an assistant principal or principal at BRI just a few years back? And why is the deputy director a lady who was also an administrator at BRI relatively around the same period of time? Do you think being a nurse for Centera for 25 years qualifies you to be director for all Centera hospitals and care centers? In fact, 2 years after leaving the nurse profession? I don't think so. There's people, HR is a career in and of itself. People
Your 3 minutes are up, sir.
Learning.
Your 3 minutes are up.
Thank you.
Speaker number 3, we'd like to invite you to the podium. Please
Good
state
evening.
your name and city of address before you begin.
My name is Jessica Black. I live in Chesapeake, and tonight I am here to talk to you guys about this after-school Satan Club. So I am going to share some scripture with you. Genesis 2, 2 and 8 says, And the Lord God planted a garden in Eden in the east, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground the Lord God made to spring up every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. The tree of life was in the midst of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And I'm going to jump down to 15. The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and keep it. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, You may surely eat of every tree of the garden, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat. For in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die. And in the Greek, that word die means a spiritual death. That's what it means. So I want to take my 3 minutes to give a quick little, I guess, sermon, if you want to call it that. You know, the problem for Adam and Eve is that there was another voice in the garden. When God confronts Adam and Eve in Genesis in chapter 2 with who told you that you were naked, he was asking them, who else have you been talking to besides me? And I am appalled that this satanic after school Satan club is even being entertained. Now, I understand that you have to, like, we live in America. It's great that everybody gets to represent the things that they want to represent. We have Christian after-school clubs. We have all kinds of different after-school clubs. But my question to you, the adults that are running this district, is, are you listening to God, or are you listening to the serpent? These are children. These are children. I saw the flyer for the B.W. Williams Elementary School After Satan Club. The eyeball of this character has a pedo symbol in it. It's on the FBI website. You can look it up. Has a pedophile symbol in the eye. Okay, first thing, that's alarming. Why? Secondly, why these buildings, these public buildings, we pay for them. This is taxpayer money. So why are you leasing the buildings out? Where's that money going? Why are you guys leasing out the buildings to after-school Satan clubs? I know you guys know that this is wrong. You are all adults. We should not be subjecting our children to this. We just should not, okay? Lies only have the power that you give it. So when we align and agree with lies, we're empowering the enemy to control us through lies. You guys know that. There's a lot of weeds in the garden in Chesapeake right now, and it is my authentic and deeply held belief
Your
that
3 minutes are up.
children don't
Ma'am,
need to
your
be
3 minutes are up.
subjected
Please stop.
to after-school
Please
Satan
stop.
clubs.
Okay.
Speaker number 4, we'd like
Before-
to invite you to the podium.
Before we proceed, I need everyone to abide by the rules we set down. Please stop at 3 minutes. Please don't try to take an extra few minutes or a few seconds to finish your thought. I'm just trying to be fair to each and every speaker. I appreciate everyone helping out. We're on speaker. Mr. Miller's speaker number 4, number 5, and number 6. I see number 5's already here. I recognize you. Hi. If you're number 6, please come up. If not, we will skip over you. Mr. Miller, please.
Good evening. Jared Miller. I'm from Chesapeake. So I come here to speak from a position of neutrality this evening, as I've made it clear many times that I am non-religious. Let me start off with this. The founding fathers of this country were some of the most brilliant and forward-thinking men of their time. They were Christians and devout in their faith. Our Constitution, amended through the Bill of Rights to enshrine our most basic natural rights, included the right to religious practice in its very first amendment. Everyone who has watched me speak up here during COVID knows that I believe in facts, data-backed arguments, and sound reasoning are paramount. I may lose some friends over what I'm about to say, but now it's time for me to get to my point. After reviewing the Satanic Temple website and all publicly available information, I discovered that they look at Satan, as they have claimed, as a literary figure in a book like any other fictional character. The Temple of Satan is akin to the Church of Scientology, looking at things through a lens of critical thinking, science, and logic, rather than blind faith. I've reviewed their handouts, history, tenets, and activities, as well as articles from other locations and who they associate with. If not for their Satan caricature and name, I would not think that they had anything to do with Satan at all. The Satanic Temple has denounced and been denounced by the Church of Satan. They are not one and the same and do not share any views. I believe that the Satan caricature is an act of trollery by their founder, simply poking fun at Christians and Catholics' blind faith. He has a milky eye in his photos on the right side, the same as their devil logo. I've been told that the swirl in the eye is a symbol of pedophilia. However, upon looking up the symbol, known as the LB logo, or little boy lover symbol, a triangle swirl, it's not the same. I found no evidence of any pedophilic practice, tendency, or legal conviction related to the Satanic Temple. Keep in mind that cartoons and characters have almost 100 years used swirls in the eyes to denote insanity, madness, kookiness, tiredness, confusion, injury to the head, etc. We have to be mindful that we are not trying to force evidence to fit a narrative, but rather come to conclusions based on what the evidence is telling us. I also have a warning for my Christian friends. I know you're good people and only want to help and protect others, but take caution from the words of Friedrich Nietzsche. Beware that when you are fighting monsters, you yourself do not become a monster. A warning to the Satanic Temple now. The truth will out if you are not being sincere. All that being said, and with the Constitution in mind, I found no reason that the Satanic Temple should be disallowed from having their club. It is not affiliated with, promoted by, endorsed by, sponsored by, or supported by the schools in any way, and also require written parental consent to attend. Their use of the building is no different than the rental of space in any other setting, and by all evidence, they have a constitutional right to religious practice in the same way that the Good News Clubs do, so long as their activities are not infringing upon the rights of others. America grew as it did because of our diversity of ideas and opinions. I will reiterate, be cautious that you do not use your rights to stamp out the rights of others. Protest, debate, and consider the merits of all sides. But keep the rights of others in mind while you do, and look at things through an objective lens. Thank you.
Speaker number 5, we'd like to invite you to the podium. Speakers 6 and 7, please come forward to the speaker queue.
Wait a second, Ms. Noel.
Yeah.
It looks like Speaker 6 is not here, so Speaker number 8, if you would come up too, we'd appreciate it. Please.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Aspen Nolette. I'm a resident of the city of Chesapeake, and I'm going to be speaking on the evil agenda that has targeted our local primary school. I've wrestled with what to say tonight. My heart's broken, and to be honest, I've been angry. But I'm not here to berate the board. In fact, I'm not here to harass or condemn any one person. My message tonight is for the church. In Ephesians, it says, "We're not fighting against flesh and blood enemies, but against evil rulers and authorities of an unseen world, against mighty powers in this dark world, and against evil spirits in heavenly places. Therefore, put on every piece of God's armor so you'll be able to resist the enemy in the time of evil. Then, after the battle, you will be standing firm." Stand your ground, Christians. We can absolutely respect and uphold religious freedom in this great nation while resisting blatant evil. We can't be so afraid of being mocked or called names or canceled that we open the door wide open to evil in our community, and most importantly, to our children. We're not a house of cards. We are the remnant of God. The weapons of our warfare are not the weapons of the world. Instead, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. Church, rise up, gather, pray, speak it from your pulpit. Revival is coming. The harvest is plenty, but the workers are few. I don't need the Chesapeake School Board. I need a merciful love of a good God to bring heaven down in only the way he can. If I've learned anything the last 3 years, it's just how desperately we need Jesus as a community. I fought, I cried, I shouted, I shook my fist at all the corruption, and all that it accomplished was opening my eyes to our great need for Jesus. Where I'm at a loss, he's already made a way. But it's our duty, our responsibility, church, to partner with him. I'm speaking to you tonight. Now is not the time to be silent. Now is the time to speak. Now is the time to pray. Now is the time to stand. And after you have done everything, stand.
Speaker number 6 is a no-show.
I'll
I'd like
remind
to
everyone
invite
again, please hold your comments. Please be respectful of everyone. Thank you. And
speaker number 7. It's your turn at the podium. Speakers 8, 9, and 10, if you'll please come forward to the speaker queue.
just a second. Do we have speakers 8, 9, and 10 here? Let's call it 3 more than Dr. Smith. Just a second. Your time won't start until we make sure we
Okay.
have someone ready to go behind you.
Let's try 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Come on forward. We've got plenty of room.
Yeah, please come up and take a seat in the front, and then we know you're here ready to roll. Thank you. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to make sure we give you the proper 3 minutes. So the floor is yours
Thank
now,
you.
please.
Eileen Horowitz, City of Chesapeake, speaking in opposition of the Satanic Club. To the members of the Chesapeake School Board, I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak today. First, I know you have to abide by the law and allow all to exercise their religious freedoms and freedom of speech. Satan as a symbol to teach tolerance. While there is freedom of speech, it is still unlawful to shout fire in a crowded movie theater. The symbolic meaning of Satan is darkness and evil. Would we allow a club to use Hitler as a symbol? Would that symbolism of itself be equivalent to yelling fire in a crowded movie theater? Are the values of the symbol promoting or inciting violence? 2 weeks ago, there was an active shooter here in Walmart. On his manifesto, he wrote, and I quote, "I was led by Satan." Oh, but Satan is just a symbol. Concerning the Parkland school shooting, the shooter said, and I quote, "Satan is my only God." But Satan is just a symbol. Concerning the Sandy Hook school shooting, the shooter had an entire internet page dedicated to Satan. For the sake of time, I know you know where I'm going with this. I guess my point is that using Satan as a symbol borderlines as hate speech, and this is not protected in the Bill of Rights. Nonetheless, there is a fine line, and I understand why you do what you have to do. In closing, it's up to us as a community not to send our children to the Satan Club and to pray for this group. This is just a game for them to see our reaction. Thank you.
Speaker number 8, speaker number 9, and speaker number 10 appear to be a no-show, so I'd like to invite speaker number 11 to the podium. Please state your name and your city of residence before you begin.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Arthalia Wilson, and I'm a Chesapeake resident, and I'm speaking on the same issue about the Satanic Club. I read an article, it was entitled "Protecting Children from Harmful Organizations in Public Schools." The Good News Club, they said, is endangering children. It presents a dark gospel. Its curriculum is filled with thousands of references to sin, obedience, punishment, and hell. Meanwhile, they maintain that salutary themes such as the Golden Rule are almost entirely absent from the curriculum, and that the children should not be intimidated from critical thinking. A spokesman on television for the group said that the mascot, or the picture of Satan that we see, is just an imaginary figure that they look to because he is the eternal rebel that fought for justice and humanity. So how does one believe in Satan or God? We can't see either one in the natural, but we do see the effects of both of them. We see good and evil, light and darkness. They have coexisted since the beginning of time. So I guess it comes down to who we will believe, what we'll believe, and why we believe it. What do we base our beliefs on? What is the point of reference we use to build upon? The Bible says that without faith it's impossible to please God, because whoever comes to him must believe that he exists and rewards those who seek him. The Apostle Peter admonished the early church to be sober-minded, alert, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. Resist him, firm in the faith. The Bible states that Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. So it is no surprise if his servants also disguise themselves as servants of righteousness. Their end will correspond to their deeds. This imaginary rebel was kicked out of heaven because his heart was lifted up in pride to be like the Most High God. And of course, as someone said, he influenced Adam and Eve to disobey God, causing sin and darkness to be passed on to every person that's born in the world. So Satan's scope of influence is universal. The book of Revelation calls him the deceiver of the whole world. Charles Spurgeon, a pastor and author, said we must discern truth from almost truth, not truth from error, but distinguish right from almost right. William Booth, founder of the Salvation Army, said, "I consider the chief dangers confronting the coming century are religion without the Holy Ghost," as he said it, or the Holy Spirit, Christianity without
I'm
Christ.
sorry, ma'am, your 3 minutes are up, but thank you.
Okay.
Speaker number 12, we'd like to invite you to the podium. I'd also like to ask speakers 13, 14, 15, 16 to please come to the speaker queue. We have space up front for you.
Good evening, sir.
Craig Blackman, Chesapeake. Superintendent Cotton, board members, thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I appreciate your service, and I'm blessed to be a part of the Chesapeake school system. We live in a special city. We are a city of many faiths and traditions: Sikhs, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, Christians, and those with no affiliation. I believe that all are welcomed here, and we have respect for each one. Our teachers model respect every day. We teach our students to lift up, to remember, and to honor, because that's the Chesapeake way. Faith is woven through our city. We have almost 200 churches in the city of Chesapeake. You can pass city vehicles and see "In God We Trust" marked on our vehicles. But perhaps the greatest expression of faith is our good mayor's response to the recent shooting at Walmart. In the deepest pain and sorrow and loss, he called us together for a prayer vigil. We came together to remember the Walmart family, to comfort and to weep with those who weep, to mourn with those who mourn. Yet the ASSC is committed to attacking and undermining the religious values that many families and students hold dear. These faiths have been an anchor for so many in our community. And let's be crystal clear. They use words like insidious to describe Christian organizations and their message of hope. This is not who we are. Can I just add, it's been a rough couple of years for our students. They have battled the pandemic, masking mandates, vaccine requirements, a nation plagued by division, an epidemic of mental illness, a fear of violence in the schools. We've had enough disruptions, and we don't need any more. I pray that peace will reign this holiday. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you.
We'd like to invite speaker number 13 to the podium. Please state your name and your city of residence before you begin.
My
Good
name
evening.
is Sarah Easton Williams, and I am a resident of Chesapeake, and I'm here to encourage the teachers. Teachers, you've made it from August until now, and I know sometimes you wonder how. How did you make it on those cloudy days when it seemed like the sun was so far away? Well, the truth of the matter is you made it through because you are a whiz at handling all kinds of situations, a whiz at multitasking, even with many frustrations. There are some that pretend they don't understand and say they are willing to give you a helping hand, but you and I both know people don't have a clue how you accomplish the things you do. Every single day you wear multiple hats, keeping a record of this and keeping an eye on that. Yet you don't miss a beat. You don't bat an eye because you understand that your students are your why. And no matter what problems you may face, you keep showing up, making sure you are in place. Even though some days you don't feel your best, you still show up because you are a cut above the rest. As you look forward to your well-deserved break, don't let anyone or anything your peace take. Go home, rest your mind, and enjoy your family, and come back revitalized, refreshed, and ready for 2023. Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaker number 14 withdrew their request to speak, so I'd like to invite speaker number 15 to the podium.
Okay.
I'd also like to ask speakers 16, 17, and 18 to come forward so you're in the queue.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hey, my name is Shani Orman. I live in Chesapeake, and I'm going to speak in regards to the Satanic Club. I don't normally let anything waste my time, much less Satan, but this evening my voice is necessary. I grew up in Israel and studied Kabbalah, Hermetic, Esoteric, and root occult strategy and teachings. I learned the topic for the simple reason that if you won't study the enemy of the mind, you won't recognize its weapon when it fires at you. Sure, freedom of religion is necessary, different opinions are necessary, debates are necessary, but I don't need to study law to recognize malevolent forces when they come knocking at my door. My argument against a satanic club is not rooted in religion. My argument is in its merit, the merit of the club and its association. If I open the Jewish Club of Israel, should I be worried about having the Hitler Club across the hall when Hitler's sole purpose was to kill every Jew? In other words, where do they resonate with Satan? What values are they intended on preaching in our community? Would that be the sacrificing of children to Moloch in exchange for wealth, like the good old days in Jerusalem in the Valley of Gehinnom? Or is it the wicked practices of calling upon demons and dark entities to possess the mind of others into doing as they wish? Modern teaching did a fine job hiding the truth. All you have to do is to pick this book. Just look and open the good old book to know the merit of Satan. They're not denying it, by the way. Remember, freedom is a limited word. For absolute freedom equals to chaos. So let's use our senses when allowing practices as such into our community, our home, our young. It's our duty to protect them. It's our duty to protect our mind and safety. Remember the story of the innocent, weak snake? You could take the harmless snake home, you can nurture it back to health, but at the end, a snake would do what it meant to do. Infect you with poison and watch you die. Don't bite the apple. Thank you.
Speaker number 16.
Again, thank you very much. Again, please, no comments while the people are speaking. Please be respectful to each and every one of the speakers. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Diana Williams. I'm a resident of Portsmouth, but I have a family member who attends B.M. Williams Elementary School, and I come before you tonight to register my opposition to the application for an after-school Satan Club at B.M. Williams Elementary School. I oppose this application fundamentally because I view it as a deceptive attempt at a wolf in sheep's clothing, in other words, to introduce training in a specious and harmful mindset that is patently harmful to the young and impressionable minds of Chesapeake school children. Under the guise of encouraging critical thinking that is not based in superstition, the Satan Club will use crafts projects and social interaction to, quote, provide a safe place for critical thinking and free thought. The Good News Club, which is a faith-based organization, extracurricular activity, poses no such threat, nor does any other entity in the public school system, or harm to non-religious students or staff. Critical thinking training is already a part of Chesapeake's curriculum, so any efforts by the Satan Club regarding this is simply redundant and has nothing really different or relevant to offer. Additionally, the applicants have revealed their fundamentally antagonistic motivation to be present on any campus that also permits faith-based groups. The Satan Club has a further issue with transparency regarding their imaginary figure, Satan, from whom they derive their inspiration as the ultimate rebel, as they say. If Satan is imaginary, there really is nothing productive to be gained by giving Chesapeake Public Schools time and resources to such inspiration. On the other hand, if Satan is real, as so many of us, and I do believe, his inspirations, ideas, and activities, and other things are things that Chesapeake school children need to be shielded from. Additionally, the applicants have already stated that if Satan Club is problematical, name they intend to reapply under a different name and sponsor at a later date. That kind of deceitful gamesmanship is not transparency, and I hope Chesapeake's public schools will not be hoodwinked by this tactic. Chesapeake Public School Board has its primary responsibility to provide an environment where students can come to learn information and skills that will make them become productive members of society. While not giving preference or advantage to any particular group or philosophy, the board has a duty to scrutinize the backgrounds and motivations of anyone seeking to gain access to Chesapeake students or to utilize Chesapeake school property, and to evaluate the merits or lack thereof love of such persons or groups. Whether the board's purpose is governmental or managerial, scrutiny and evaluation are part of the function and role of the board, which fills the place of parents who entrust their children to Chesapeake schools for their education. In today's litigious environment, I realize that the actions of the school board must conform to the laws of the Commonwealth of Virginia and the U.S. Constitution. As you carry out your function with regard to this, I simply and humbly direct you to our U.S. Constitution and its preamble for some sensible, rational guidance, namely, to provide for the common defense. You must determine, in order to do so, who are our enemies. To promote for the general welfare, everybody cannot get everything that they may request, but what is promoted needs to benefit, in our democratic republic, the majority of the people.
Your 3 minutes are up, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaker number 17, I'd like to invite you to the podium.
Speaker 17.
Speaker 17. Could I also have speakers 20, 21, and 22 come forward? We have space up front for you.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chesapeake School Board. My name is Dr. Melanie Jones Ballard. I am a school social worker with Portsmouth Public Schools. I have been employed there as an advocate for children for almost 20 years now. I have been a resident of Chesapeake for over 20 years as well. I come before you today. My son is in kindergarten at B.M. Williams School, and quite frankly, I am very disappointed in the fact that this after-school, quote-unquote, satanic group is being allowed in a public school building where I and many other people pay tax money to support this public entity. Also, if my memory serves me correctly, it states that this is going to be an after-school program that starts at 2:30. Well, the school is not vacant at 2:30. Kids are still in the school, and parents and other family members are still picking up their children. The school lets out at 2:05, and the children are still in there at 2:30. Also, how is it that you can have this group on the 15th in December and then turn around on the 16th and have a Christmas celebration inside the school where the children bring snacks and celebrate Christmas the very next day? Also, if this First Amendment they feel is being violated and they don't practice religion, then if this is not a religion and they're saying that the First Amendment is being violated, the First Amendment covers that. And if it's not being if this is not a religion, then how are they being violated? That is another question that I have. Also, this morning, when I was trying to pray with the clergy that was out there in front of my son's school, I was stopped by one of your security people and told me I needed to park my car out on the street if I was silent protesting. Last time I checked, saying my prayers and praying with someone who is against Satan is not a protest. I was not out there posting signs or shouting or creating a disturbance. That was one of your fellow security people. Also, my question is also, as far as the devil cartoon, this is targeted to children, young minds that are impressionable, like someone said, to piggyback on what the woman just said that was up here. Children at that age, 5, 6, and 7 years old, they look for adults for guidance. We set the tone. They model the behavior that they see adults perform. So when you're looking at children that are impressionable, this is a vulnerable population, as well as the elderly, children, and women. This is one of the vulnerable populations. Also, this devil cartoon that's on this invite, this piece of paper is being distributed in another state. Now, when is it going to be distributed in the school that my son goes to? It's already being done in Illinois. Now, also, furthermore, the devil comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And you think about chaos. You go to John 10:10.
Your 3 minutes are up, ma'am. Thank you.
Speaker number 18, we'd like to invite you to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Good evening.
Hi, my name is Dr. Ronald Lee, and I'm from Pocosin, and I specialize in organizational leadership. Merry Christmas, and God bless everybody on the board and in attendance. I would like to speak about ethics and the voluntariness of informed consent. Rabbi Supperman, that was a beautiful invocation. I admire your inspiring presence here today, and I'd like to apologize for the false dichotomy of bringing up Hitler all the time. That's truly offensive. Pastor Mercer, thank you for your leadership and your Unitarian Methodist history of inclusion and acceptance. Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6 says, "Train up your child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." The Catholic Church says, "Give us a child until he's 7 years old, and we'll have him for life." Data from child development studies support the sentiment. If a child isn't indoctrinated by the age of 13, the odds of him becoming religious drops from 32% to 2%. We're all here today because we're worried about elementary school students becoming indoctrinated at an impressionable age. Moving religious clubs to meet after 5 p.m. will solve all of our problems. Dr. King, as you can surely attest, performing a survey or just an observation on human subjects requires informed consent. The IRB will look at every detail and ensure that consent is given and informed and voluntary, while avoiding conflicts of interest which might influence a subject to take part of a study against their will. If I want to interview a homeless person and I offer him a free meal for his participation in a study, that would be unethical, because he might only be participating because he's hungry. A study on prisoners that promises a reduction in their sentence for participation would be unethical because the subjects might only choose to participate for an early release. The Good News Club exploits parents by renting elementary schools at the end of the school day to gain access to impressionable minors. They entice parents to sign permission slips knowing that the free child care which they provide is needed for working parents. Many parents use this club for monetary reasons and convenience. These benefits would be unethical due to the effect on voluntariness. But we do not protect children from ethic violations in schools the way we do in scientific studies. Parents are also not informed that the Good News Club volunteers are mandated to discourage non-Christian worship services for the club's children. They believe non-Christian denominations include Catholics, Unitarian Methodist, and other common denominations. Pastor Mercer, your church is not compatible. The Catholics here tonight, you're also persona non grata for the Good News Club. Catholics and Methodists identify as Christian, and surely you are if you think you're a Christian. However, parents are not informed that their children are being taught that. But this whole problem will go away if we just move religious clubs to 5 p.m. at night. Solved. Nobody has an issue.
3 minutes are up. Thank you, sir.
Speaker number 19, we'd like to invite you to the podium. Speakers 22, 23, and 24, please come forward. We have space up front for you.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Gary R. Catlin, City of Chesapeake, and concerning the present debate. I had prepared some notes to speak to all of you about, but I felt led as I came up here that probably what's more important is what I have on my heart than what I prepared. As a school board, I've listened to some of the debates that have come up before you, and I understand the increasing difficulty that we have in this country finding some type of middle ground that's going to give us peace. Unfortunately, I've come here to share with you that that's getting increasingly impossible. We're increasingly becoming two nations. We're increasingly becoming a divided people. We're like a ship with two captains arguing about who's going to control the helm, both with broken compasses. Both will eventually crash upon the rocks, sinking all that are in it. Finally, woe to the Christian church who has lost its saltiness and is no longer salt. Woe to those who say God is dead and mock God. And woe to us all for the messengers that are coming.
Speaker number 20, we'd like to invite you to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Good evening.
Emily Bushbell, Nottoway County, saying no to the Satan Club. Thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, in Jesus' name. The day of the Lord is approaching like a thief in the night. The ways of the wicked will not go unpunished. For thousands of years mankind has turned their backs on me, giving in to divers temptations. Hear me now, Chesapeake. Hear me now. Repent, for the kingdom of God is at hand. Children are a heritage unto the Lord. It is better for a millstone to be tied around someone's neck than to offend a little one. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Yeshua HaMashiach, the risen one, the great I am.
Speaker number 21, we'd like to invite you to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Mike Bushbell, Nottoway County. Today we stand before you as a solemn warning. Do not allow this club to take place, for Satan is a liar and the father of all lies. His future, and anyone who decides to follow him, will be the eternal lake of fire. Jesus warned us not to follow after him, but to turn to him, for he is the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes unto the Father but by him. The day of the Lord is approaching. His soon return is at hand. And it's our responsibility to make sure that no little one is offended by this. It is our responsibility to make sure that the ways of the wicked do not prevail with this. It is also our responsibility to train up a child in the way he should go. As school board members, you need to take that job very seriously, for you will be judged harshly if you allow this to take place. The day of the Lord is coming, friends. Choose the right way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaker number 22 appears to be a no-show, so I'd like to invite speaker number 23 to the podium. Also, could I please have speakers 25, 26, and 27 come to the front? We have space for you.
Good evening. And before you start, again, I'd like to thank everyone for their cooperation for queuing up in the front here. It's certainly making the speakers flow a lot quicker. Please.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Christina Payer, and I am a resident of Chesapeake. I first like to premise my statement with the fact that I actually am in support of exercising religious freedom. However, I do not support the use of intimidation, the abuse or misuse of the First Amendment through attempts to impose an anti-Christian agenda through the Constitution. As a result, I believe that this is really not a question of religious freedom, but of whether or not this organization, the Satanic Temple, is using its religious expression in a way that is intellectually honest. The Bible says that Satan is the father of lies. He is the deceiver. They have stated that they don't subscribe to any religious opinion. However, their most recent promotional video targeted towards children states, Satan is not an evil guy. He wants you to learn and question why. Have fun and be yourself. By the way, there is no hell. This is, in fact, a religious opinion and an ideology. They say that they're not trying to endorse Satan. This is another lie. The word endorse means to express a formal support or approval of someone or something. The group is demonstrating an overt and explicit support of Satan through their statutes, their marketing, flyers, rituals, and communication. They are using the First Amendment right to promote an anti-Christian agenda. They themselves have admitted to only seeking to establish this after-school club where Christian-based after-school clubs are located. They claim to be a sincere religion, yet claim to lack supernatural beliefs. They deny belief in a literal Satan while simultaneously endorsing Satan. In 2013, when Governor Rick Scott signed into law a bill allowing students to read Christian inspirational messages at assemblies, this group affirmed, I quote, "Now this allows our satanic children to pray in school." My question is, pray to who? Pray to what? They themselves have stated that they do not pray to a deity. They state that they focus on critical thinking. I have a hard time believing that they don't understand the difficulty that any logical, rational person would have reconciling the discrepancy between who they are showing us that they are versus who they are saying that they are. They say that they don't worship Satan. However, there is a common exchange of the words, "Hail Satan," at their meetings. Public knowledge, you can research these things. They say they're for scientific rationalism, but we can see the whole discipline and rationale of our founding fathers. It did not come from this sort of thinking. It came from the minds of men and women who believe deeply in God. My hope and my expectation is that in the event that this application is resubmitted or that it...
Thank you. Your 3 minutes are up. Thank you.
Speaker number 24, we'd like to invite you to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hello, my name is Stephen Mannix of Virginia Beach, and I have the honor to serve as the local chairman of Child Evangelism Fellowship. We sponsor in partnership with local churches Good News Clubs, which are held during non-instructional time on school grounds, and children only attend with the permission of their parents. First and foremost, we want to commend and support Chesapeake Public Schools for allowing free speech and free exercise of religion to continue. A free society allows different voices, including religious voices, to speak. Unfortunately, much commotion and unnecessary discord has been created by a group that opposes religious, especially Christian, speech in public. This group is the Satanic Temple, and the cause of the controversy is the after-school Satan Club. A critical part of their strategy is to inflame emotions. This is very apparent through their misuse of names and imagery associated with Satan worship. The name of the group and club both include Satan, even though they don't believe in any supernatural beings. In addition, their website uses pentagrams and various depictions of Satan. A much more accurate description would be secular fundamentalists due to their oppositions of Christians who dare to share their faith in public places. Because Good News Clubs can't be shut down legally, these secular fundamentalists are using a ploy to alarm parents and school boards with the hope the school board will act by shutting down public access for all clubs, especially the Good News Clubs. The Satanic Temple has gone to B.M. Williams, where there's a Good News Club, requested the school allow its club. It admittedly has no intention of teaching children about Satan. Its own website advertises the fact that it will only meet at schools with religious clubs, and I quote, "The after-school Satan Club meets at select public schools where Good News Clubs and other religious clubs meet." In addition to this antagonistic trolling, the Satanic Club uses mockery. On their permission slips for the club, it says Satan is a literary figure and describes their belief as a non-superstitious worldview. Given the context, it's obvious jabs at Christianity. But this is not surprising given their founder's belief, and I quote, "Where reason fails to persuade, satire and mockery prevail." For those concerned about the tactics and ideology of the Satanic Temple, please consider joining or supporting Good News Clubs. Ask your church to sponsor a club, volunteer, and if you feel the Lord leads, please give. Overall, I want to tell everyone, don't let your hearts be troubled. Pray and take action. I wish all a Merry Christmas because Jesus is hope for everyone.
Speaker number 25, we'd like to invite you to the podium. I'd also like to ask speakers 28, 29, and 30 to please join us at the front. We have space for you in the queue.
Good evening. My name is Chris Williams, and I'm a resident of Chesapeake, Virginia. I'm also a pastor at Centerpoint Community Church here in Chesapeake. Thank you for the opportunity to speak at this meeting. We are deeply grateful for the work of the school board, the administration, of course, the staffs in our schools, and your commitment to quality education for the children in our city. Our church has been involved at B.M. Williams Primary School for approximately 10 years, serving the students, families, and faculty in various ways, including teacher appreciation events, grounds beautification and improvement projects, backpacks and supplies for students, food distribution to families during COVID, one-on-one tutors for struggling students, and classroom preps with teachers. We've been privileged to do so and appreciate the opportunity to be part of our community in this way. This fall, several members of our church were approved to start an after-school Good News Club. These members have a history of serving at the school and wanted to provide an opportunity for interested families to enroll their children in a Christian program with enriching activities and age-appropriate teaching from the Bible. We understand the policies associated with the use of school facilities by outside organizations. The schools are public property and are appropriately available for use by various groups as long as it does not disrupt or interfere with the school's normal functioning. We also understand and appreciate the 2001 ruling of the Supreme Court of the United States that allows outside religious clubs to be held on public school property after hours. So we're not surprised by the application for an after-school Satan club under the sponsorship of the Satanic Temple. Their clubs seem to exist only to counter and possibly disrupt Christian groups that are using school facilities consistent with school district policies. And in spite of this and the views they hold contrary to our faith, we recognize that Chesapeake Public Schools has the authority to make such decisions consistent with existing policies and court rulings, but in the best interest of our children. We are praying for you as you navigate this issue. We appreciate the opportunity we have to serve families at B.M. Williams through the Good News Club as part of our existing relationship and our commitment to serving the larger needs and interests of the B.M. Williams community. Thank you again for allowing me to speak and for your service on behalf of our city.
Thank you.
Speaker number 26, we invite you to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Good evening.
Good evening. June Everett, Denver, Colorado. My name is June Everett. I'm an ordained minister and the National Campaign Director for After School Satan Club for the Satanic Temple. I'd like to tell you why I'm here and how I became involved with the Satanic Temple. In 2016, at the time, I would have considered my family non-religious. After picking up my first grader from school one afternoon, he went on to tell me how he was going to burn in hell, be taken away from everyone that he knew and loved, his mom, his dad, Molly, our dog at the time, if we didn't start going to church and accept Jesus Christ into our hearts. He was very clearly upset. It just so happened the public school he was attending at the time had an active Good News Club, and it was taught by his first grade teacher. This prompted me to dig a little deeper into the club, and I soon learned that the Good News Club teaches the children who attend the club to proselytize to their classmates. I took huge issue with this, and this led me down to the path that I'm standing here tonight. I wanted my children to be able to learn and grow and decide for themselves what religion called to them. And their school and the Good News Club that took that choice away from me. And this is what my children's first introduction to religion was. The After School Satan Club is currently operating in 6 states around the country. Our volunteers tell me that they are eager that clubgoers come back every month. The kids have fun making arts and crafts, playing games, doing community projects, and learning about the world around them. Our parents love that their kids are free to be themselves, a place where they are free from threats of eternal damnation. I know that Facebook and Fox News have told Chesapeake citizens that After School Satan Club are evil and demonic and run by devil worshippers. They speak with such authority on a subject they know nothing about. The Satanic Temple does not worship the devil. We are not demons. We do not believe in demons because neither exists. Our beliefs are not evil, and I fully encourage everyone here to Google the 7 tenets of the Satanic Temple and ask yourself which one you would disagree with. The After School Satan Club at B.M. Williams Elementary will be the 7th club we have opened this year, with 2 more additional clubs planned in New York and Oregon. I can promise you the fire and brimstone have not rained down on Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, or California because they are home to one of our clubs. We are only at schools where the program has been invited in by a parent, teacher, or community member. People that don't understand who we are take great pride in creating local community outrage by spreading fabrications. We launch our club, everyone sees that ASSC is harmless and a beneficial addition to the school's current offerings. The outrage dissipates almost as quickly as it was incited when the next news cycle comes along. I'm here to remind you that the schools are supposed to be incubators of our democracy, where kids interact with a microcosm of their community. When your local community includes Satanists, which it does...
Your 3 minutes are up.
Thank you.
Speaker number 27, it's your turn at the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Hi, my name is Jim Limbach. I'm a resident of Chesapeake, and I'm also a pastor at Deep Creek Baptist Church. My primary responsibility is ministering to children, teenagers, and families. The United States of America was founded on Judeo-Christian principles. Whether we believe in those principles or not, they are the foundation of our laws, government, and society as a whole. The only reason our laws hold any weight at all is because they're based on something. Similar to our currency, without any backing, it's worthless. The Bible is where those Judeo-Christian principles are found. The Bible teaches extensively about good and evil. And you don't have to be a person of faith to realize that there's good and evil in this world. Evil is the reason we need laws to begin with. The Christian faith teaches that Satan is the ruler of evil in our world. We take very seriously the battle that exists between good and evil. As someone mentioned earlier in the book of Ephesians, the Apostle Paul writes, "For our battle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." Satan is that ruler. Now, according to the SatanicTemple.com website and the ASSC literature, they say Satan to us is not a supernatural being. Instead, Satan is a literary figure that represents a metaphorical construct of rejecting tyranny over the human mind and spirit. While the Satanic Temple says they don't believe that Satan is real, thousands of years of Christian history teach the exact opposite. The ASSC has a promotional video, as someone else mentioned, that sings about Satan not being an evil guy, that hell is not real, and then a line about Satan not even being real. So while they claim on their website that they do not believe in introducing religion into the public schools, the fact that they sing about hell not being real is doing exactly that. And their teaching goes against the principles that our great nation is founded on. Now listen, I understand the legal ramifications and the position that the city is in and the school board is in, and I don't want to see an end to all faith-based organizations. In fact, on Wednesday morning, I'll be at Hugo Owens Middle School helping lead a wildlife club. So I don't want to see that happen. But I respectfully ask that the school board in the city, if this is approved, and I hope it's not, but if it is, I respectfully ask that the city ask this club to remove the name of Satan from their literature, and as well as the cartoon figures of the devil on the material with which they'll promote this club. It makes a mockery of the faith upon which our nation was founded. In July of 2021, the Chesapeake City Council voted unanimously for every city vehicle to feature the phrase, "In God We Trust." If we believe this, we must also believe that Satan and hell are real. And if that's the case, the name Satan should have no place in a club for 5, 6, and 7-year-olds. Thank you all for your time. God bless you, and Merry Christmas. I appreciate it.
Speaker number 28 appears to be a no-show. Speaker number 29, we'd like to invite you to the podium. Could I also have speakers 31, 32, and 33 join us up front in the speaker queue?
Good evening.
Good evening. Hello, my name's Annie Palumbo. I live in Virginia Beach. I am a mom and an advocate for children. I run the Unmask Our Kids Virginia Beach social media page, and I've spearheaded the fight for children in Virginia Beach for the past 2 years. I live my life as Ephesians 5:11, have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of evil, but rather expose them. I'm here tonight to expose some of the lies of the after-school Satan Club and the Satanic Temple. And I'm so glad I'm two after June Everett, who flew here from Denver, Colorado, to spew her, well, okay, I believe them to be lies. So from the dictionary, Satan is described as the chief evil spirit, the great adversary of humanity. From the Bible, he's described as a manipulator, a deceiver, a liar, and a destroyer. So imagine my confusion when I read the mission statement of the After-School Satan Club. They state, "We prefer to give children an appreciation of the natural wonders surrounding them, not a fear of everlasting otherworldly horrors." No fear of otherworldly horrors. What must that mean? I was curious, so I looked on social media. Worldly horrors. So they're trying to prevent children from seeing worldly horrors. This is on some of their Facebook. I don't know, a little child, 5 to 7, they come up to about here on me. I think that would be something scary. Here's another example. Satan. These are from the Satanic Temple. Here's another one. So remember, they want to protect kids from worldly horrors, but yet this is on their site. I don't know. When I was 7 or 5, that would have scared me. This mom's crying, 666, that's not good. Here's their founder, Lucian Graves, or whatever his last name is. There's a satanic symbol, whatever he is, monster, with 2 kids looking up to him. And then, lo and behold, the woman Rose Bastet, who now we have found out her name is Jenny Sheffield. We looked on her. Janae. We found out that this is on her Facebook. So they want to teach love, empathy, compassion, and they don't want to scare kids. But this is on her site. I mean, happy atheist Thanksgiving. There's a baby in an oven. There's a baby in an oven.
If it
And they
can't be,
think it's
hold on a
funny.
second, your time stops for a second. I know you're trying to sensationalize, I get it, you know.
No.
No,
I'm
no,
trying to speak truth.
No, please let me finish, everyone. I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to people who have comments about what you're saying. You got to respect each other. If you're not, I'm going to have to ask you to leave, okay? So please respect on both sides each person's opportunity to give their opinion. Thank you. And please finish what you had to say, Ms. Palumbo.
So anyway, you know, there's more. I mean, I've got these, you know, for a little 5 to 7-year-old. These are scary. So everything they say is not true. See, manipulation, lies, deceit, Satan's biggest tools. From what I understand, your hands are tied. I know you guys are all on your way out, and there's a new school board coming in. But, you know, this group has 7 lawsuits going. Be brave.
Okay,
do
your
something.
time is up. Thank you.
Speaker number 30, we'd like to invite you to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Thank
Good
you.
evening.
I'm Mary Murphy, Chesapeake resident. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. As a concerned citizen and taxpayer, I object to the use of B.M. Williams Primary School by the Satanic Temple, an organization which has no central authority, is contradictory, and presents a risk to students, school staff, and our community. The co-founder, who goes by a pseudonym, is a self-proclaimed satanic activist. The temple was founded to eliminate Christian presence in after-school programs by causing fear, discord, division, and then trying to utilize the courts to eliminate the other clubs. The temple states that they're very much a religious organization with sincere beliefs, but they have no central authority or accountability. The organization grows by adding more activists. There's no mention of a temple in this area that I could find, or of regular gatherings. Suggested rituals, which you design yourself, include a black mass, unbaptism, a destruction ritual, and a defiance ritual. In spreading their message, satire and mockery is utilized to persuade, which was previously mentioned. That's their words. The children's instructional video is contradictory, frightening, and quite possibly embedded with subliminal messaging. It states that Satan is an imaginary friend, not a bad guy, not scary. However, a grotesque Baphomet, which was one of the pictures just shown, replaces the cartoon figure in the video. Half human, half animal, part male, part female, riddled with symbols. He's a pagan idol symbolizing rebellion and Satan. While an ordained minister denies that they teach about religion or offer other religious opinion, they indoctrinate to promote their tenets, which focus on personal sovereignty, independence, freedom of will, in very clever ways that promote lawlessness, selfishness, and segregation from the community. Satan's the good guy rebel. He's all about your personal wants and desires without limits. I visited their website with an open mind. Quite dismayed, all I could find on the front pages was a request for funding and activism support to defend abortion as a religious ritual. The members are activists masquerading as a religion, driven to cause concern in our educators and parents and disrupt the community. They don't have goodwill intention for the children, parents, or the community. How can you ensure a safe environment by an unstructured organization passionate about their main goal, eliminating other after-school clubs? Still mourning the Walmart mass shooting, we don't need more people led by Satan. The application form for the community use of the CPS facilities should be denied per the criteria right on the form. It is not in the best interest of the school nor community and would result in an unacceptable risk. Thank you.
Speaker number 31, we'd like to invite you to the podium. I'd also like to have speakers 34, 35, and 36 please come forward. We have space for you in the speaker queue.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Summer, and I come from Chesapeake, where I'm also a voter and a taxpayer. I am here tonight to let the school board themselves explain the after-school Satan Club situation in their own words. I would like to start with school board member Christine Newcraig. Update. First and foremost, this is not a school-sponsored event, nor is it supported or affiliated with Chesapeake Public Schools. We allow different groups and organizations to rent our facilities. They fill out and submit an application. They meet all the requirements, and once that is complete, we must approve their application. Because of the Supreme Court ruling, we must approve this group and organization. While I personally do not support nor agree with them, but because of the law and Constitution, they have the right just like all other groups. Do your research on this group and the people behind it. Thanks, Christine. We hope that the people research the Satanic Temple, too. So many are surprised to find that they do truly believe our beliefs. Board member Colleen Leary responded by saying, "Totally agree, and we wish that we had the legal standing to block it." I would like to empathize with you, Colleen, that you are so upset about not having the legal standing that you were hoping for to trample on your students' First Amendment rights, the First Amendment rights that we teach our children in school and encourage them to pursue. Then we have a joint statement from our soon-to-be board members. As concerned parents of ourselves, we empathize with our fellow citizens of Chesapeake and beyond, who have reached out to us with legitimate concerns regarding the After-School Satan Club that will be meeting after school hours at B.M. Williams Primary School. We have campaigned together on a platform of perfecting your children and shining light on the darkness. Now we respond together with a unified voice of shared concern regarding this after-school club. It is important to know that this is not a school-sponsored club, and the school board did not vote to approve this club. The use of school facilities for after-school clubs invokes decades of legal precedents and multiple Supreme Court decisions. In 2001, the Supreme Court issued a ruling in the Good News versus Milford Central School permitting the use of school facilities for the faith-based Good News Club. This is the exact precedent that the After-School Satan Club is utilizing in order to obtain approval in Chesapeake and throughout the country for their after-school club. We hear your concerns loudly and take our campaign promises seriously. As a result, we intend to evaluate every option at our disposal. As we look to take office in January, we are committed to being transparent.
Your 3 minutes are up.
Thank you.
Speaker 32, we'd like to invite you to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Before you start, and just so everyone knows, we're on Speaker 32. After Speaker 40, we're going to take a 10-minute break so everyone can stretch their legs. So please.
My name is Stephen Shearbaum. I'm a resident of Chesapeake. I come here to speak as a concerned parent regarding the After-School Satan Club at B.M. Williams. I'm asking every member of the school board to make sure that the club does not meet on its originally scheduled date of December 15th or any other date at any school in Chesapeake. I am a devout Catholic, and I was appalled when I found out that the Satanic Temple would be coming to host an after-school activity among our most vulnerable and innocent children, 2nd grade and under. My daughter is a 1st grader who attends B.M. Williams 1 hour a week for speech therapy. If this club meets, I plan on removing my daughter from the speech therapy services she receives and finding an alternative. Besides the After-School Satan Club, I have no complaints with the service my daughter has received. She cherishes the time she spends with her speech teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, and I believe her going to the school has helped her immensely with her speech. I'm sure that this club has hurt school morale immensely. I couldn't imagine working at a school that would host an After-School Satan Club. Have you taken a survey to see how many teachers are requesting to move to another school? What type of teachers do you think you would be able to recruit to a school that hosts an After-School Satan Club? Furthermore, what do you think this does to property values in the neighborhood? School choice is a major issue why people move. If everything else is equal, why would you willingly send your child to B.M. Williams, a school with an after-school Satan program? I wouldn't want to be a part of that school, and I doubt any of the B.M. Williams teachers became teachers to have their children turned over to the Satanic Temple at 2:30. As a caring and responsible adult, how on earth could you be comfortable turning innocent children over to such an organization? All this changes if you do the right thing and make sure this club cannot meet anywhere in Chesapeake. The woman that is supposed to lead the event has some graphic material on her Instagram account. I would hope that the schools would do their homework and never allow someone with this material around children. Why is it okay that she is leading an after-school club? I hope that the other speakers will have presented you with some of this evidence, which I don't have time to get to. Lastly, I would like to let you all know that I have been part of a 9-day rosary novena in front of B.M. Williams School. We've been praying for every teacher, administrator, and staff member of that school and all the children they come in contact with and their families. The after-school Satan Club is so offensive. The only thing I can compare it to is if a KKK or Nazi club wanted to meet after school. People are rightly outraged. We have received nothing but positive feedback for praying and having signs. We've had 20 to 40 people join with us each day, with several of them having either worked or still worked in schools. Imagine what the response would be if the Satanists were out in front of that school with that many people for 9 days straight with their signs. There would be fighting, violence, and chaos. This, more than anything, is probably the image you need to have to make the correct decision and measures to make sure that Satanists are never given a venue in Chesapeake Public Schools. Thank you.
Speaker number 33, we'd like to invite you to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Good evening.
Good evening. I don't know how y'all are doing it, but you're doing it, and thank you for sitting here. My name is Sarah Sewell, and I am a Chesapeake resident. First and foremost, I had something typed up. I practiced it all doggone day, and now I don't even want to say it because of what I'm experiencing right now. Yes, I am a Christian, but I'm not here to force my Christian beliefs on anyone. Obviously, I don't want a satanic school, or a satanic club in the school. Okay, point blank, period. But what I don't agree with is how the Christians have been acting. This is not right. I'm so sorry you had such a bad experience with someone condemning you without even showing you the love of Christ. That's first and foremost.
Ma'am, you're here to address the board.
I'm
not
sorry. I'm sorry.
Please keep your
But
comments focused this way. Thank you.
I'm so passionate about the fact that it's so easy to judge someone when you don't know the reason of why they believe even what they believe. And that doesn't take for me to actually agree with what they believe. That takes for me to actually believe in what Jesus actually teaches, which is to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And I know we all have some idols of our own that we worship because it makes us feel safe. It makes us feel comfort. So I do want to just apologize to anyone, and I know I can't look at y'all, but I do want to apologize to anyone who has just experienced such bad Christianity or such bad representation of Jesus, because they don't deserve that. Obviously, like I said, I don't think we should have, right, the Satan symbol club, whatever it's called, no disrespect, on you guys in the schools, right? Because to me, obviously, Satan has never had a great rep. Let's just be honest. Satan's never had a great rep. But at the end of the day, that's just like sex trafficking. That's just to say, hey, well, let's just say sex trafficking is okay. Let's say slavery is okay. It's not okay. It's never had a good rep, and it never will. And that's just point blank, period. So with that being said, honestly, that's all I have to say. But we really need to focus more on loving one another. That's what we're here to do. That's what we're on this earth to do. And if we can't do that, then we're failing at being a human being. Take religion out of it. We're here to love. And if we can't do that, then we don't have a Chesapeake. We don't have a United States of America. We don't have anything. Love is the fundamental of our growth and what's going to sustain us and maintain us. Not judging. We don't know somebody else's story and background and why they came to where they are. Thank you.
Speaker number 34, I'd like to invite you to the podium. Could I also have speakers 37, 38, 39, and 40 please come to the speaker queue?
Good evening.
Hi, my name is Rose Bastet, or Janae Sheffield, as someone so lightly let everybody know. I live in Norfolk, Virginia. I have lived in the Hampton Roads area since I was 10. I grew up here. I'm a Navy brat. I'm here tonight to speak in support of the After School Satan Club. I'll start by telling you about the sponsor of the After School Satan Club, the Satanic Temple. Despite what you have been told, members of the Satanic Temple do not worship the make-believe character Satan. Satan is nothing more than a literary figure who exemplifies a lot of things we are missing in this world. Empathy, reason, compassion for your fellow human beings. Satan is a rebel against tyranny and the ultimate questioner of authority. In that light, I'm here to question the dishonest and performative authority that the Chesapeake School Board is displaying this evening. Thanks to the efforts of the Good News Club and a 2001 Supreme Court ruling, the Chesapeake Public School Board does not have the authority to vote on the after-school Satan Club presence. Nor do they have the right to vote on religious beliefs of their students, whether students of a particular region are or are not allowed to enroll in their schools. The public outrage that CPS is clearly trying to stoke and appeal to does not magically give the school board the authority to bypass well-established constitutional law. Despite organizing this witch hunt, school board meeting, CPS is very aware that they have little to say in this matter. If I may read from Superintendent Dr. Jared Cotton's recent letter to the community, by law, CPS cannot discriminate based on beliefs among groups wishing to rent our facilities. School board member Colleen Leary stated that she wished she had the legal standing to block the after-school Satan Club. Because of a Supreme Court ruling, we must approve this group, said school board member Christine Newcraig, who added, because of the law and constitution, they have the right just like other groups. Soon-to-be CPS school board members Mike Lamania, John McCormick, Kim Scott, and Dr. Brittany Walker released a joint statement saying the use of school facilities for after-school clubs invokes decades of legal precedent and multiple Supreme Court decisions. In an effort to entertain the social media users who are shouting the loudest, the CPS school board has attempted to create the illusion of public choice on whether or not the after-school Satan Club launches on Thursday. As you have heard from their public statements, they are 100% aware they have no say in the matter. I realize it's difficult to accept that your beliefs are not held by everyone and that other religions have the same right as yours. I'm sorry if I'm first to tell you that understanding another religion does not authorize you to demand its removal from public spaces. You've scared yourself with your own supernatural beliefs and are now pointing the finger at the after-school Satan Club. My religion does not need your permission to exist. My beliefs are not subject to your approval, and neither the board nor outraged Facebook comments have any authority to violate Chesapeake residents' constitutionally guaranteed right to equal representation in after-school clubs. Thank you, and hail Satan.
Speaker number 35, I'd like to invite you to the podium. Please state your name and your city of residence before you begin.
Good evening. My name is David Witten. I'm from Chesapeake. Good evening. Thank you for taking the time to hear the concerns of our community. You've got a difficult job, and I pray God's guidance over you guys. I'd stand here opposed to the proposed Satan Club held at BM Williams. I'm not opposed to religious organizations meeting in public school buildings, but I am opposed to opening public buildings where children are educated and satanic groups have opportunity to influence your children. This is a spiritual force, and I'm afraid that we easily dismiss as fictional, as we heard tonight, and fairy tale. But I believe that Satan is real. I believe that he has an agenda to influence our community. And I would caution you to decide any actions that you would make and consider the spiritual impact that this will have on the children that you are charged to educate. Inviting Satan into our buildings is a bigger issue than any of us can really comprehend. Satan has been at work in our community, and I believe that his spiritual influence has been seen in the violence that we have witnessed. We see an increased violence all across Hampton Roads. A case in point, it's already been mentioned tonight, is the recent mass shooting that happened in Sam's Circle, Walmart, where the shooter expressed in his manifesto and openly admitted that he was led by Satan. Why in the world would we want to have this kind of influence within our schools? Please stand against this type of influence in our public buildings. If you have any godly understanding, you've heard this scripture verse, I think, 15 times tonight. Our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, against authorities, against powers, whether they admit it or not. They're real powers, against spiritual forces of evil in heavenly realms. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Speaker number 36, we'd like to invite you to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Preston Kramer, resident of Norfolk. I'd like to introduce myself. Like I said, Preston Kramer from Norfolk, Virginia. I have 2 beautiful daughters of my own. I am also one of the volunteers for the After School Satan Club that's going to be at BM Williams. I have a poem I'd like to read to you all. It is written by Lucian Greaves, the co-founder of the Satanic Temple. Let's have a look at Evangelist Al. He wants you to know Jesus, his very best pal. Regardless of the topic we'd like to explore, Al insists we discuss Jesus, just him and no more. Whether in schools or in city meetings, Al needs to have Jesus at all the proceedings. And when schools say religious matters are private, poor Al is so hurt, he feels he won't survive it. At a school board meeting, Al takes to the floor. You're intolerant of religion, and I will take it no more. Al tells all attending they have it to choice, free expression for all, and all have a voice. I know the law, and I'm willing to fight it, to teach about Jesus, for such is my right. You can't keep religion outside of the school. I am a taxpayer, damn it, that is the rule. True to his word, Al took up the fight. He went to the Supreme Court to establish his right, to teach about Jesus in clubs after school. Now religion is welcome. In fact, that's the rule. The school could say nothing about it. It wasn't their place to question the ruling in this type of case. Religious clubs are now allowed, the Supreme Court has decreed, and the schools have no say in what clubs teach, write, or read. Al was as happy as an evangelist can be. He started clubs about Jesus where admission is free. He taught his version of what it means to live well, without sex before marriage or you'll be tortured in hell. Some parents enrolled children to the club Al was teaching. Others stayed away, dismayed by his preaching. His club was a daycare to parents who work. A club after school seemed like a good perk. Along came some Satanists into the school district. They said, we would like to start a club that teaches science and empathy instead. A club just for learning, religion aside, but our teachers are Satanists, a fact we don't hide. After School Satan Club is the club they have founded. When Evangelist Al heard, he was very astounded. The Satanists were offering an alternative view. Al didn't like it, but what could he do? But Al didn't actually care to give all religions a voice, and he certainly wasn't interested in an alternative choice. Al said all those things to get Jesus in schools. The arguments he had made were just legal tools. Against after-school Satan, Al took up the fight. He went to the school board to challenge the right of Satanists to teach about science in school. To deny free expression, he'd make the rule. The schools must say something, as was their place. They'd take a stand in this type of case. Religious clubs are allowed, but this was absurd. The only religion to Al is Jesus' word. But Al is a hypocrite, that much is plain, and he protested the school board, but protested in vain. The Supreme Court could not the school board overrule, so attacking the school board was just dumb and cruel. So when you see Al and you hear him crying, know that he's a bigot or that he's just lying. When he says he's angry about after-school Satan, remind him the rules were of his creating. Thank you.
Speaker number 37, we'd like to invite you to the podium.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name's Bradley Williams, been a Chesapeake resident my whole life. Went to BM Williams even. Good evening, school board members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening about the allowance of the Satan Club to meet in BM Williams School. I'm against having them come into the school because I fear that it's an opening for CRT, gender identity, and other ideologic topics that our children don't need. This building is for education, not indoctrination. One of the 7 beliefs of the organization is that science should be used to prove the validity of everything, which eliminates faith from your life. As a Christian, faith is very important to me. With COVID this past 2 years, I've seen vulnerability of science theories, and I don't have much trust in what they say. If by having a Christian-based club in the school opens this door for the Satan Club to come in, then maybe all the clubs need to find a different meeting site. I'm sure that the Christian-based club will be able to find a church for them to meet in, and let Satan Club go back to its temple. Use the school for teaching, reading, writing, arithmetic, true history, and maybe a little IT for today. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I'll be praying for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaker number 38, we'd like to invite you to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Hi, my name is Faith Griffin. I'm a resident of Chesapeake. I worked for 3 years at the Chesapeake Wellness Center, so some of you might recognize me. I also have 2 kids who graduated from Chesapeake Public School this last spring and just finished their first semester in college. I'm also raising 3 children who are currently enrolled in the Chesapeake Public Schools, so the issue of the after-school Satan Club personally affects me and my family. We are all hopefully aware at this point that the school board has no control over which after-school clubs are approved or denied, since that decision is based on district policy and federal law. What I'm speaking about tonight is the damage the school board has done to our community with what is in their control. The actions the school board have taken have endangered our citizens and children. I received an email on December 2nd emphasizing that the school board does not support the after-school Satan Club and was clearly distancing themselves from any potential involvement. I did not receive a disclaimer like that for any other clubs. When the sponsor pulled their name from the application, the school board was quick to send out another email to update the parents on this turn of events. And Mr. Murphy was quick to post about it on his Facebook page. Again, I've never seen this kind of publicity about any other clubs. It is blatantly obvious the school board is taking sides. Here was an opportunity to educate the public about inclusivity and acceptance, and instead has allowed intimidation and bullying of the students and parents who support the club. There are people instructing others to, quote, take down the names of students who attend the club since they will be our future school shooters, end quote. The families that are supporting this club are being threatened. I would like to know what the school board is doing to stop this targeted hate that they have helped incite, because I haven't seen anything so far to that effect. I would also like to know where the public education is that we've been promised. The public consists of many different beliefs and backgrounds, and all I've seen is a clear religious preference, an attempt to outcast and stigmatize those who have different beliefs. Religion breeds divisiveness and judgment, and at this point, the only way to ensure the safety of our children and our families is to remove all religious clubs from where they don't belong and keep religion out of our schools. Thank you.
Speaker number 39, we'd like to invite you to the podium.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jenny Chambers, and I am a resident of Chesapeake. Board members and residents of Chesapeake, I stand here this evening in disbelief and yet resolute in my stance. These past 2 years have been a battlefield for us as parents as well as our children. The battles we have faced concerned their health, their education, gender identity, explicit sexual material found at our libraries, and now we stand here discussing an after-school Satan Club. It is hard to believe that this is where our public education has come to, and yet here we are. According to YouthGov, after-school programs are provided to support social, emotional, cognitive, and academic development, reduce risky behaviors, promote physical health, and provide a safe and supportive environment for children and youth. However, from the beginning, the ASSC has made it very clear that their club was created to take on the good news clubs. As a matter of fact, according to an article on Fox News dated February 14th, 2022, the Good News Club has become its #1 nemesis. Clearly, this club has nothing to do with benefiting children. Lucian Greaves, as quoted in the Washington Post, said, "We are only doing this because Good News Clubs have created a need for this. If Good News Clubs would operate in churches rather than public schools, that need would disappear." Our children are being used as pawns to engage in this clash between those who believe in God and those who don't. The Washington Post said it best. The ASSC is determined to give students a choice, Jesus or Satan. I, for one, believe that we have the right to choose. However, let's make the priority and the goal of this club very clear. The ASSC is not here to promote critical thinking, empathy, benevolence, problem-solving skills, or creative expression. Their agenda has been made known. And supposedly the only choice now is to accept or face the future legal trials and the possible dissolving of all after-school programs. Each of you are appointed gatekeepers over the schools here in Chesapeake. You have the authority to approve and deny materials, policies, and other decisions regarding the well-being of our children. Your ability to influence their innocent and impressionable minds is a weighty responsibility. Our children, these future generations, and the city of Chesapeake depend on you to protect and safeguard what is allowed in. Chesapeake depends on you to protect. So what we allow today will have a direct impact on what this community will receive in return. Ronald Reagan said it best: the real crisis we face today is a spiritual one. At root, it is a test of moral will and faith. As a parent, I have the choice to send my child to this club or not. And as board members, you have the choice to approve or deny this request. There is always a choice. Legalities aside, and you all know that. The choice is yours.
Speaker number 40, we'd like to invite you to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jake Southard. I'm a Chesapeake resident. I'd like to start by saying that the problem we're discussing today is a symptom of a society that's detached from God. It is the result of the secularization of the public school system. First of all, the Virginia Bill of Rights concerning religious freedom states that it is the mutual duty of all to practice Christian forbearance, love, and charity towards each other. There can be no doubt among any of us that the Satanic Temple is essentially anti-religious, even if only by its name, and especially anti-Christian. Because of this, they do not deserve protection under the guise of religious freedoms whatsoever, at least within our state of Virginia, in my opinion at least. Secondly, the After-School Satan Club also states that they do not believe in introducing religion into public schools, yada yada. We've already heard this from many people before. But how could their intention really be religious if it is not to combat the practice of the Christian religion, which is protected, as I said, in the Virginia Bill of Rights? And last and most importantly, within the regulations governing the use of school facilities, the application, it states that a request may be denied when it is judged not to be in the best interest of the school and community. This just comes up plainly obvious to me, as I don't know how this cannot be used to deny their application. It is obvious, and I can tell by looking at your faces, many of you, how adamant you have to be opposed to this. And I hope that this can be used to deny their request. Who else is better fit to make that judgment than the school board, which is the school's whole representative of the community? So prohibiting the Satanic Temple from using school facilities is assuredly in the best interest of the community and of God, and I have the faith that the board recognizes that. I know there are some Christians of the Supreme Court who do. May God be with you, and may the Holy Spirit guide you in your decision. In the name of the Father, and Son, and Holy Ghost. Amen.
Okay, thank you. It's 7:52. We're going to take a break till 8:02. Please stretch your legs. I'd like to ask that when we come back, that speakers 41 through 45, please come to the front. We'll take a 10-minute break.
If you please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Edwin Goodwin from the city of Suffolk, but I pastor a local church in Chesapeake, Virginia. And I'm here in representation of the kids. It's all about the children. I've heard someone say earlier that we are adults fighting an adult battle. But this is about our kids. This is about the children. I pastor families who send their kids to school, to elementary school, high school, college. We've had shootings at the University of Virginia. We've had 19 kids out in Texas. And these are not done by good students. These are done by evil people. And so our children are now having to make decisions with social media exposure. There are TikToks, there's Facebook, there's Instagram, and the younger our children are exposed to these entities and their mental capacities to handle them has been a big challenge. We're preaching and teaching to our children in our churches to love our neighbors as ourselves, to be representation of every good moral decency that our society looks to operate on. And it's a responsibility as adults to help our children and navigate them through some of the treacherous waters they're facing today. It's our responsibility to help them know the value of life, the morals of life, the good and decency of life. And that said, at the school board here, you're faced with an issue with a club, Satan Club. And listen, what's funny about it, they said that there's no association to being a religious-based organization. Yet the name Satan has absolutely, in the history of its existence, nothing good to be said about it. Zero good. We have nothing in history that puts him on a decent level like Gandhi or any other type of person in society who's done something that's positive. So now we have primary age kids now going to have to not make choices, but possibly want to be with curiosity to find out what is this club about. And so the mindset will be challenged to drift to those things that, as someone read earlier, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, things you don't have to need to know of. And as parents, we're responsible to teach them the right things in society from the Word of God. The Bible has given us the instructions as as human beings, we all have lived with evil and good all of our lives. And we know that's not fake, that's not scientific, that's real. Our choices and decisions are based on our ethics. Somewhere we're getting our ethics. Whether you get them from the streets, you get them from grandma, granddad, or church or synagogue, you're getting ethics from somewhere, and ethics dictates your choices. So when we're talking about primary kids coming to school being given the choice to believe this, believe that, and knowing that one side speaks of that which is good, the Good News Club, one speaks of that which they say they don't, but evil, Satan, we having to put our children in a
3
place
minutes
to
are
make
up, sir.
decisions.
Thank you.
And we pray. Thank you for your time.
Speaker number 42, we'd like to invite you to the podium. Could I also have speakers number 45, 46, and 47 come up front to the queue?
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Melissa Bro, and I am a resident of Chesapeake and a teacher pretty much since I graduated in Florida and here. And I also have 2 graduates from public school and a student that is attending right now. So I'm here on his behalf, but I'm also here to advocate for my best friend, and that's Jesus. And I just wrestled with the words today of what to say. This is clearly a spiritual warfare. I'm not up here to, make my religion sound any better than somebody else's religion. I don't really think of it as a religion. I think of Christianity as more of a relationship. And I do consider Jesus my best friend because he died for all of us. He died for every single one of us in this room. Angels and demons, spiritual warfare, they all exist, but we don't have to live in fear of the supernatural. God has given us a powerful weapon against temptation and accusation. He has given us his word, the Bible, to remind us of who he is, who we are, and what is true. The Holy Spirit brings God's promises to mind when we need them most. We can have victory over Satan's schemes by filling our minds with the truth of the Bible. And also, I know a lot of people have already referenced Ephesians, but I have some more scripture. 2 Thessalonians 3:3, but the Lord is faithful, and he will strengthen you and protect you from the evil one. 2 Corinthians 10:4-5, the weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. 1 Peter 5:8-9 says, be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour. Resist him, standing firm in the faith, because you know that the family of believers throughout the world is undergoing the same kind of sufferings. James 4:7 says, submit yourselves then to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Romans 8:37-39 says, no, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. For I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord. There is a common denominator here. Christ represents love. We are supposed to love everybody, and no matter what they believe in, we are supposed to tell the truth. And I'm up here to advocate for the truth, the Bible. That's the standard I live by, and I'm advocating for my best friend and for my son. I'm in opposition of this satanic club. Thank you very much.
Speaker number 43, we'd like to invite you to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
It's
Good
Maureen
evening.
Robinson, Chesapeake, Virginia. So good evening, and I appreciate your patience and I'm thankful that you have allowed everyone, regardless, even people who were in line to speak, and you're so patient and listening. I'm here to address the same proposal of an after-school Satan club at the primary school. In the mid-'60s, radio personality Paul Harvey wrote an open letter entitled, "If I Were the Devil." And he went on to say, the letter opens, "If I were the devil, if I were the prince of darkness, I would want to engulf the whole world in darkness. I would encourage schools," and I'm not going to say the whole letter, "but to neglect to discipline emotions. Just let them run wild until before you know it, you'd have a drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every school door. Soon I had evicted God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse, then from the houses of Congress." And at the time this letter was written, many of you are old enough to know there was a very different time then. There was respect for God and the Bible and prayer in schools. There were no drug crises. And many thought that this was over the top. One such critique said at the time that it would seem laughable for being so extreme, but here we are. Here we are. And after the shooting, I left Walmart just minutes before the shooting started on the 22nd. And I can tell you, for a week I cried. I didn't know anybody there. I didn't know anybody there. I go in there all the time. I've been there for 3 hours. And I cried every time I thought about it. Not only for the victims and their families, but for the shooter. For the shooter to be in such a dark place that he wasn't able to stand. And Genesis says, he said, "I would engulf the whole world with darkness." And with that, it's already been talked about the lies that have been told. But the club is being touted as harmless and certainly boasts of many appealing activities and all of these things. And it reminds me of what Satan said and what was said in the garden. "But of that tree, don't eat of it. And that day you'll surely die." And the enemy comes along. The serpent says, "You shall not surely die." And that's what I feel is being given to us. The enemy is saying, this is harmless. Oh, there's no real Satan. I beg to differ. I can tell you he exists. He is real. And it's not just because the Bible tells me so, though I do believe that. I love Jesus. And I love what my precious sister said. He is my sweetest friend. But what I love what Andy Andrews said, he wrote a book. How do you kill 11 million people? How do you kill 11 million people? You lied to them.
Your 3 minutes are up. Thank you.
Thank
Speaker
you. Merry Christmas.
number 44, I'd like to invite you to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jerry Dickerson. I'm from Norfolk, and I'm hoping to be inside Chesapeake as a resident in the next few weeks. And I'm here, and I want to thank the board members for allowing us to come here and speak. I came to this evening over concern for our children, our families, and our community. As a multidisciplined aerospace engineer, I know the value of a well-rounded education and its importance to the dynamic of the community. My wife is a retired teacher, district mentor, curriculum developer, and principal. In watching and assisting in her career, I am familiar with the concept and method of the spiraling curriculum. Growth is knowledge that is made by planting an idea and coming back and building on it. This can be seen in mathematics where addition, subtraction, moving to multiplication, division, and finally building up to calculus. This is an example of a positive outcome. It can also be used in a negative way and different outcome. It is known as marketing, and that works for commercials, and that's how they're designed. Satan Club has stated that, quote, "They chose the name of Satan because he was the original rebel." I assume that none of us here wish to produce rebels in our schools who may or may not follow rules, guidelines, or safety regulations designed for proper inculcation of values. that our community and state have formed and developed from the foundation of our government. B.M. Williams Primary School has a student body of 808 students, of which 4 to 7 years of age. This is an extremely impressionable age group who need special protection from a dysfunctional world. Not more than 3 blocks from this school, a Walmart manager was shot and killed, 6 fellow workers. His manifesto stated that Satan made him do it. He asked for God to forgive him. Using the name Satan Club brings waves of bad feelings and concerns to the community. I assume all here present want the best for our students. When children and young adults are allowed to be in an environment that a word, smile, snarky comment, or wink could corrode the values that the community has established and needs to nurture, we must use proper discernment. I need to address the Good News Club's ill-advised comment on the news saying that they would support other clubs' free speech. Are they saying, as I assume no one here would agree with or condone, the formation of an after-school club sponsored by the KKK or Nazis for the development of, quote, free thought and self-expression of our vulnerable and most impressionable youth? We must also be aware that the school and district have in loco parentis and may be quite liable for all sorts of costly lawsuits,
That's your 3
which
minutes,
none
sir.
of us
Thank
want.
you. That's your 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaker number 45, we'd like to invite you to the podium. If you'll please state your name and city of residence before you begin. Could I also have speakers 48, 49, 50, and 51 please join us up front?
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Philip Prestipino, and I'm a resident of the city of Chesapeake. I have 2 students in Chesapeake Public Schools. For many years, I participated in the program. In fact, I was the founding father of the Watchdog program at 2 of our schools here in Chesapeake. So I have a vested interest, and I encourage and support what the school board does and what our teachers do every day to teach our awesome students. I love this city. I love the city of Chesapeake, Virginia. I came here in the United States Coast Guard in 1986, and I said then, I will raise my kids in this community. This is not where I'm from, but when I came here, I said, this is where I'm going to raise my kids. I knew it. The first time I came here, I walked around this place, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is heaven on earth. And I have never left, and nor will I. So with that, the folks that have come here to bring this club to the city of Chesapeake are here for one reason, and that is to antagonize. They are here because they want to make a point. And they want to make a point with our children. And I tell you, we can't let that happen. I will fight it with every breath that I take. And I ask each of you, what will you do for the children of Chesapeake? Not that you're not doing a great deal today, but now is the time. Here, and you are the folks. And they'll throw around the First Amendment and a court case from 2001. The Supreme Court ruled that the Good News folks could have time in our schools. They'll throw that at you, and they'll dare you to stand up to them. Well, I say, what better place than here, and what better time than now to say no. Not in the city of Chesapeake. We will not have it. We will not stand for it. And damn the consequences. If it means we got to go to court and fight, then go to court. Roe v. Wade was settled law a few months ago. Not anymore. If they did that, we can do this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the time. This is the place. And we are the people to stand up and say no for our children. Thank you very much.
Speaker number 46, we'd like to invite you to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Antreese Wright, resident of Chesapeake, Virginia. New to the state, but I like it already. Greetings and thank you guys so much for this opportunity. I'm in opposition of the After School Satan Club. They don't believe that Satan is real. They think that he's imaginary, yet they're named after him. As a matter of fact, Miss Everett works for the temple that's named after him. You can't see the wind, but you can feel the effects of it. It's there, just like this club. It may not appear to be one thing, but believe me, you're going to feel the effects of it. It may not even be 5 years, it may be 20 or 30, but you're going to feel the effects of it, guaranteed. They don't believe in the supernatural, but yet their logo is a fictitious character. They say they believe in freedom. As a U.S. veteran, Navy, freedom is not free. There's a cost that has to be paid somewhere along the line. So the freedom that they're referring to, there's a cost that's going to have to be paid somewhere along the line. Serial killer Sean Sellers, age of 16, he killed and murdered several people. He stated that Satan made him do it. The one that they say isn't real has such a great influence on most serial killers. As a matter of fact, he was interviewed on Oprah Winfrey's show. Go ahead and Google it, look it up. And he says there are so many downfalls to devil worship. Krista Pike, age 18, West Virginia. She worshiped the devil. She sliced her peer, assaulted that person, and carved a pentagon in her chest, beat her head against the pavement, and took a piece of her skull and kept it as a souvenir. Sharon Tate murders of California, led by Charles Manson himself, killed an 8-month woman who was pregnant she was 8 months pregnant, sliced her stomach, stabbed her over 16 times. Why? Satan, devil worship. Chesapeake, right here, Walmart, from ages 16 through 70, the shooter said he was led by Satan to do it. Someone who is fictitious definitely has a lot of influence, doesn't he? My own mother, who I love greatly, who I'm raising children who will never see their grandmother, her husband, 17 years of marriage, got into Satanism, shot her in the back of the head, execution style, then shot himself. So you tell me, After School Satan Club, the victims, they don't experience any empathy. They don't have the compassion that their group so proclaims. Ask me, I can tell you about it. The devil's work is never done, is what the TST, the temple, says. And that's, you know what, that's the one thing that they're telling the truth about. It's never done, but neither can ours. I want you to know that this club is based on lies.
Your 3 minutes are up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaker number 47, it's your turn at the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Yes, Catrice Krebs, Chesapeake, Virginia. Hello. I'm a concerned citizen, grandmother, retired teacher for Chesapeake Public Schools. The proposed after-school Satan Club is a cause for concern, and we fear for the young students entrusted to your care. The after-school Satan Club is asking for equal time at B.M. Williams School because the Good News Club has access to the students. While I do not approve of anything related to Satan near our children, even remotely, perhaps the school district needs to look at the larger picture of uninviting the Good News Club from the school also. Nature abhors a vacuum, and both clubs are competing for the unchurched children. Not long ago, while I was teaching, administrators encouraged after-school clubs, which were aligned with the standards of learning. Where did the standards go? Teachers are overworked and overtasked. However, there still needs to be extracurricular and after-school activities. I would ask the board to consider a criteria for allowing after-school activities which enhance the learning environment. In doing so, the organizations which are invited into the school must be vetted. A quick background check on social networking will reveal some unsavory characters who should not be allowed near our children. But where are the other clubs and after-school activities? I did call the school and they said there was only the Good News Club. Where is the chess club, the math club, the fluency and reading clubs? Where is the macrame, knitting, and crocheting club? Are we okay with allowing that void to be filled with groups who are motivated to sway our children
while using the buildings, heating, cooling, and other resources to gain a foothold. We should not be fooled into the motives of these clubs just because they are masked behind buzzwords like critical thinking, compassion, and creativity. The After School Satan Club wants us to believe that Satan is just a literary figure. Almost 3 weeks ago at the local Walmart, a man killed 6 others and himself, confessing that he was led by the same literary figure. Dear members of the board, the carnage committed just a short distance from B.M. Williams, a community which is still grieving, was quite literal. I respectfully request that Satan be given no quarter here in our community or schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaker number 48, it's your turn at the podium. Could I also have speakers 51, 52, and 53 join us up front?
Good evening.
Good evening. I feel like I need some holy water here to cleanse off the podium. Good afternoon, board. My name is Tim Keister. I'm from Virginia Beach. I volunteer with my church's youth ministry. I'm sorry that your school grounds have become such a battleground, in this case, quite literally enduring a satanic attack. I come this night to shed some light on this issue as I'm an engineer, teacher, and a Christian. As others have well noted, the ASSC is a hostile organization whose stated purpose is to encumber school boards with controversy and legal threats. As another speaker had mentioned, this is literally just, they're acting in bad faith. You can dismiss their application with prejudice out of hand without addressing issues of freedom of speech or freedom of religion. But I want to address their claims that this is just a publicity stunt and not really satanic. They can deny Satan's existence, but they're using his tactics straight out of Genesis chapter 3. If you eat this fruit, you'll be filled with knowledge. God is holding you back. And if you read their brochure, you'll find the same satanic promise. We offer you knowledge liberated from the bounds of religion. Is religion holding science back? Absolutely, and that's a good thing. History tells us what happens when you free science from God's restraints, eugenics, and the horrors of Joseph Mengel's medical experimentation in Auschwitz. Make no mistake, both are alive and well today. A few years back, Iceland announced that they had eliminated Down syndrome by aborting anyone who tested positive for it. The advocates of this call it compassionate and loving, but the dictionary definition of genocide is what it's called. As for Mengele, pull up your emoji keyboard and search for pregnant man. 20 years ago, this idea was laughable, but now it's commandeered an entire month for celebration. I beg of you, listen to the words of Scott Nugent, who underwent gender-affirming surgery. I had 6 inches of hair on the inside of my urethra. Think about having an ingrow hair on your face. Now think of that with urine passing it on inside of your body. I had, and still have, and will always have a recurring infection for the rest of my life. At some point, antibiotics are not going to work anymore. Secular humanism promised to make Scott a new creation and instead gave her a death sentence. Now all the doctors have abandoned her. What hope does she have left? Yes, Christianity stands as a roadblock to this, and sadly we failed at our job. But our God will never fail and is still strong to save those who have no other hope. In Acts chapter 8, Philip shares the gospel with the eunuch, who accepts Christ and leaves his sorrow turned to joy. That is what it means to be a new creation, to be born again, and the offer still stands today for all who call on the name of Jesus. Thank you for my time. Thank you for your time.
Speaker 49, we'd like to invite you to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hi, y'all. I'm Jessie Ramsrand. I'm from South Prince George, Virginia. It's a little Blankeniomis town. If you want to stop by, I'm making mean biscuits and gravy. I'm addressing the After School Satan Club non-issue. I'm a Marine Corps veteran, and I'm here to support the Satanic Temple, and I'm personally an atheist. Just a little trivia for you all tonight. Do you know how many faith options the U.S. government allows? It's 221. 221 faith-based options that they allow. Personally, I served to represent everybody, not just a select few. So now, that feeling that you have right now of religion you don't want or like or agree with being imposed on you, that's what it feels like every day for non-Christians in America. That's why we oppose allowing public schools to host religious clubs at all. We believe in a separation of church and state that is absolute, like John F. Kennedy did. But as long as Christians insist on the right to use the machinery of the state to impose their religion on others, that right must be extended equally to all Christians do not have a monopoly on state power any more than they have a monopoly on truth. I like how my friend Andrew Seidel puts it, you are raging against the dying of your privilege. Thank you.
Speaker number 50 has withdrawn his request to speak. Speaker number 51, we'd like to invite you to the podium.
Good evening.
Good evening. Christina Parkman, resident of Chesapeake. When I received the email regarding this after-school Satan Club, it made me sad and scared, and I began to wonder, where's the line? Are there any more boundaries? I am scared because I'm wondering what happens next. What happens when people who say that they call themselves people who are minor attracted persons, what happens when they want to have an after-school club? What happens when MS-13 or any other gang wants to set up an after-school club? Where do we draw the line? And I would ask that this school board please consider another alternative. I know that a lot of you will say your hands are tied. Legally, you have to let the after-school Satan Club exist. But I would ask you to please let the parents decide. The law has long recognized that parents get to decide what is in the best interest of their children, and I would ask you to please let the parents vote with all schools. Anytime an after-school club is proposed, such as this one, please let the parents vote to decide what is in the best interest of their children and who will be allowed to influence their children. I've heard people say that the Satan Temple promotes that they are a non-theistic group and that they are going against a historic tyranny. But I would just like to add that people like Frederick Douglass, Rosa Parks, Billy Graham, Martin Luther King, and Mother Teresa, history remembers these people because they did believe in God and because they did do his work. Thank you.
Speaker 52, we'd like to invite you to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Melissa Luxon. I'm from Virginia Beach, and I'll be talking about the after-school Satan Club. I hear a lot of people talking about the children. Let's talk about Christianity in America. Or should I say the single greatest cause of atheism today? You know who I'm talking about, right? The type of people who acknowledge Jesus with their words and deny him through their lifestyle. The ones who preach the importance of traditional family values, all while making excuses and praying for men who prey on children. The most hypocritical religious group in America, evangelical Christians. A quick internet search of Christian leaders in Chesapeake is revealing. In 2013, Gregory Forehand, a Chesapeake pastor at Real Life Church, was convicted of sexually assaulting 3 boys over the course of 7 years. In 2014, Hayden Conrad, a pastor at Chesapeake Avenue United Methodist Church and a volunteer chaplain with the Chesapeake Police Department, was convicted of exposing his genitals to a minor under 15 years old. In 2017, Gerald Lee Porter, a former volunteer Bible school teacher at River Oak Church here in Great Bridge, working with children from kindergarten to 5th grade, was convicted of child pornography. For the record, one of the images was of a 7-year-old. Who knows how many actual victims there are, because sexual abuse has been institutionalized, normalized, and tolerated by the church hierarchy for decades. The Catholic Church in America has paid over $3 billion to settle clergy abuses. Church-funded trauma and abuse that will affect generations of families. American Christianity became a noisy gong when it gained political, social, cultural, and economic power at the expense of vilifying LGBTQ plus individuals, oppressing people of color, abusing children, and assaulting women. American Christianity claimed to be based on the pillars of truth and honesty, but endorses politicians who lie and cheat. American Christianity pays lip service to love and acceptance, but thrives on fear and oppression. Evangelical Christians are susceptible to misinformation and propaganda so easily because the entire structure is built on anti-intellectualism. They are programmed to accept things based on faith even when presented with facts. Christian nationalists care more about politics than Jesus, which is evident by spending decades investing in a voter base that will never question their authority. The Chesapeake-based Congressional Prayer Caucus Foundation is using the banner of religious freedom to impose their religion on the American public. These wannabe patriots wrap themselves in the American flag, scream freedom and individual liberties while harassing, threatening, and intimidating citizens who are doing nothing more than promoting a safe space for critical thinking, empathy, compassion, and science-based activities with the after-school Satan Club. It shows what they really believe, these Christians, right? First Amendment's for me, but not for thee. The Satanic Temple is not the one who prides itself on male dominance, allowing for the normalization of child sexual abuse. Those are evangelicals. Call me whatever today's boogeyman is, but we will not be silenced. And as elected officials, you are required to uphold the First Amendment rights of your citizens, even if that makes it awkward for you at church on Sunday.
Speaker number 53, we'd like to invite you to the podium. Could I also have speakers 55, 56, 57, and 58 come forward?
Good evening.
I'm Barbara Faircloth, and I'm a Chesapeake resident, and I am here to oppose the Satanic Club being allowed in the school. I came at this at first a little bit different, and I'm a Christian, and I believe the Word of God is the only truth that we know. But even Oxford said the chief of evil spirits is Satan. So it's not only the church that acknowledges that who Satan is. It seems our country has lost its moral compass, because if we have no God, then where is the right and wrong? We have taken God off of our buildings. We've taken prayer out of our schools and out of our activities. And it just seems that God is trying to be removed from our country. And yet our country was founded on religious freedom. There's just a couple things everybody has said so many times, so I'm not going to make you sit there any longer and listen to me repeat those things. But there were just a couple of things. There was on the website, and I don't think anybody mentioned this, but it's a takeoff of Jesus loves me. Satan loves me, this I know, for my inbox tells me so. And they're cute little song, very catchy little song, that said, and somebody read part of that, Satan is not an evil guy. He's not scary. And then they say Satan doesn't exist. He's an imaginary friend. But then they said Satan looks for truth. Satan cannot know truth. And they repeat it over and over, hell is not real. One thing I do know from the Bible, and it says that he comes as an angel of light. And I think that's what we're seeing tonight. The Bible tells us to try the spirits. So it's the spirit behind what is being done that needs to be determined. Thank you so much for your patience, for listening to all of us. And I wish you a very Merry Christmas.
Speaker number 54, we'd like to invite you to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Mike LaRussa, a resident of Chesapeake. First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I thank you for your dedicated service to the school district and community. I'm speaking on the topic of the after-school club application that identifies with Satan. I can think of no better time to address this issue than now. God's timing is perfect. The concept of free will should not surprise any of us, certainly not God, who built free will into our very being. There's little doubt to the intent of any club that aligns itself with Satan. I think the issue that comes out in my mind that I wanted to speak about is the evidence that has come out, I guess, after the application was submitted and accepted. I have to question the screening process that's in place for after-school clubs to determine, quote, per the application, if it's in the best interest of the school and community, or would it result in an unacceptable risk? I think in this case, simple background checks of social media would have revealed what the real intent is of this club. If I were a teacher in our public school system, I would be held by a standard that would not allow that kind of post on Facebook, for example, that we've learned about. I'd probably be terminated. So that, I think, is one of the main issues. Because of the times we live in today, a security monitor should be required for the duration of any after-school event paid for by the club. It's a real blessing. It's a great blessing and responsibility to raise a child. And as a parent, we teach our children to know right from wrong and learn that there are consequences for our actions. Sometimes, it takes a lot of reinforcement over and over. As a parent, we set boundaries for our children that are age appropriate. We teach children to be respectful to their teachers and those in authority. We teach them the value of a good work ethic and discipline that will help them face challenges head on and not quit when they fail. This is how they become productive members of society. And I don't attempt to take credit for these values we pass down. It's just out of a strong faith of Jesus Christ.
Thank you.
For his gracious and merciful love.
Next speaker.
Speaker number 55, it's your turn at the podium.
Good evening.
Hello. My name's Annetta Caldwell. I'm from Chesapeake, Virginia. So I have 7 kids, and I just wanted to share my testimony for a minute. I've been a Christian since I was a teenager, but I actually am an ex-Satanist. So I used to be heavily involved in the occult, witchcraft. So it's very real. It's not a fictional thing. Satan is real. God is real. God took me out of not only satanic worship, drug addiction, alcoholism when I was a teenager. And after that happened, I realized the spiritual realm is so crazy real. And I do want, I know I'm addressing them. I'm not saying anything.
Ma'am, please make your comments this way.
Okay, sorry. I'm not saying anything horrible about the people that are supporting this club. I personally don't want it. I homeschool, but I still care about the kids in this community. But my biggest thing is that I want you guys, and I'm calling out for the church too, like my friend said earlier, that we need to pray, especially because this nation is going a little bit crazy, and we just need to pray and bring Jesus back. And so just want you guys to know the spiritual realm is real. Satan is real. It's not a fictional thing. I've seen all kinds of crazy stuff, but God delivered me and set me free from it, and that's why I can go and spread the gospel now, because he's the one that died on the cross for me, and he died for everybody regardless of what they believe. He died on the cross. He raised from the dead 3 days later, and after that he said, if you believe in him, you will be in heaven with him one day. I led my dad to the Lord Lord. He was a Muslim. Last year he died, but he now knows Jesus. He's in heaven. And I'm telling you that God is real, Jesus is real, and he has a plan for everybody in this room. And he wants everybody to know that he loves them unconditionally and that you can live with him one day if you accept him in your heart and you say, God, you are real. I believe in you and I put my faith in you. And one day I'm going to be in heaven with you. And he has that plan for each of you guys, everybody in this room. And you can come to know Jesus right now just with a simple prayer. Wherever you're at, you can accept him. Whether you're watching me online or you're watching right now, if you put your faith in Jesus, he can save you. Because the world is going crazy, but the only thing that's stable is the word of God. And if you walk with him, you don't have to worry about how the world is going crazy because it's a good foundation. And it's a foundation of Jesus. So, done.
Speaker number 56, we'd like to invite you to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Before you begin, I'd like to remind everyone, please hold your applause and comments. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Ashley, and I'm from Newport News. All right, to the board, thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak tonight. It's unfortunate that tonight's speeches won't have any impact on the club being accepted, but it's nice to have a public forum to get all of our thoughts out. I cannot believe that the school allowed a group that actively converts children into their belief system and tries to pressure them into joining their ranks. That's not something impressionable minds need to be dealing with at such a young age. But if you read the Good News Club's About page, it says exactly that. Conversely, the After School Satan Club, or ASSC for short, says that they focus on science, critical thinking, the arts, and good works for the community. This is a club that is actively refusing to convert children and simply wants to give them a safe, productive environment where they can spend time doing extracurricular activities. Children will be given an appreciation for the natural world around them, something that many people are severely lacking, whether they be religious or not. Trained educators provide activities and learning opportunities which students are free to engage in, or they may opt out to explore other interests that may be aided by available resources. That is the beautiful thing. Kids can opt out. Nobody is forcing any child to do anything they do not want to do, as it should be. In fact, the third tenet of the Satanic Temple is one's own body is subject to one's own will alone. Everything will be your child's choice, from whether they decide to go to the club down to what they do at the club. At the end of the day, the important thing to remember, it is your child's choice. A choice to go to the Good News Club, a choice to go to the After School Satan Club, a choice to go home instead. Nobody should be forcing any children to do anything. As a parent myself, I cannot imagine a world where my daughter is forced into doing anything she wouldn't want to do. Thank you all for listening. Have a blessed winter solstice, and may the new year treat you well.
Speaker number 57, it's your turn at the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin. And if we could have speakers 58, 59, and 60 join us up front. 57, 58, 59, and 60.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Mark Foreman. I'm a resident of Chesapeake. Thank you for your patience. It's been a long evening. I've changed what I had written several times based on what other folks have said, so I'm going to try to concentrate on things that I did not hear said. Nearly 2,000 years ago, Jesus told a parable that applies perfectly to this situation. It's found in Matthew 13. It's the parable of the wheat and the weeds. A landowner planted good seed to produce a good crop of wheat. Then under the cover of darkness, his enemy snuck into that field and planted bad seed to produce weeds. When the good and bad plants began to grow, the farm workers told the owner that what they discovered and asked if they should pull out the weeds to prevent them from growing. And the landowner answered, "An enemy has done this to try to ruin my good crop. But don't pull out the weeds yet, because in the process of removing them, you will harm the good crop. At the time of harvest, the good and the bad will be separated." Good News Clubs are a good seed and have been producing a good crop for literally decades. Another group has planted bad seed with the purpose of producing weeds. But by removing the weed will damage the good crop in the process, and I think that is their intent. I think they want to provoke a response of outrage from parents, leading to a response from a school board like yourselves or a city council to in turn deny access to everyone. Please don't fall for their trick. The goal, both figuratively and literally, is to block the good news. Another quote I haven't heard said tonight is familiar to everyone, whether we're believers or not. It's the most popular verse in the Bible, John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. So many times people forget to go on to verse 17. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. And that's good news. Further down, it mentions light has come into the world, but people love darkness instead of light because their deeds were evil. Everyone who does evil hates the light and will not come into the light for fear that their deeds will be exposed. But whoever lives by the truth comes into the light, so that it may be seen plainly that what they have done has been done in the sight of God. Thank you.
Speaker number 58, it's your turn at the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Tanya Brown, and I'm a resident of Chesapeake. My name is, as I stated, Dr. Tanya Brown, and I'm a sociologist by occupation. I'm a Christian by identification. From that introduction, you have an indication of what I'm about to say, because my name and what I call myself provides distinctive designators about who I am and what I represent. When a group labels itself the After School Satan Club sponsored by the Satanic Temple, there is no mistaking who they are and what they represent, no matter what they say. There is no period or place in history where Satan or anything related to labeled satanic has ever been synonymous with love, benevolence, or compassion. There's a multiplicity of studies that provide empirical evidence linking Satanism to criminal, antisocial, and deviant behaviors. In fact, research also reveals that satanic groups use parties and after-school clubs to recruit members, specifically youth. This characterization is not discrimination. It is factual information. It has been stated that the focus when you're making this decision is on providing a safe and secure learning environment for our students. I contend that an after-school Satan club, based on what we know from the empirical evidence, threatens the safe and secure learning environment for our staff, students, and faculty. The comparison has also been made to outside organizations like churches that rent our facilities. This is like comparing apples to oranges, for unlike the correlation that has between satanic groups and anti-social and criminal behavior, more than 40 years of empirical scholarship suggests that Christian religions decrease propensities for criminal behavior. When churches rent schools or facilities, the objective is not to teach students anything or to solicit members. It is to have a place for their members to meet. Thus, I implore you to devise a clear building use policy for outside organizations, one that is based on research and considers the social, emotional, and mental footprint or impact left by that group and its activities on our school community. No group should be permitted to threaten the safety and security of our most vulnerable population by subtly proselytizing and recruiting our children. To say no is not discrimination. It is acting with information. Thank you for your time.
Speaker number 59, it's your turn at the podium. Could I also have speakers 61, 62, and 63 come up front?
Good evening.
Hello, board members. I don't have a prepared speech. I'm David Dindalk, and I am a resident of Chesapeake. But because I don't have a prepared speech, I would wish I could talk to you rather than at you. But I know you're not going to answer me, so this is a rather difficult conversation. But something I haven't been listening to or hearing is most of the people here, when they talk for the Satan Club, they're saying things in opposition to the very nature of the school itself. And you, board members, they don't respect you sitting there in front of them. They didn't respect the flag. They sat down. They didn't respect the invocation. They stayed in their seats. They don't respect our laws. They put justice and their personal motivations over the very laws of our country. I want to tell each of you that that is a big thing to consider. And I know that you're legally required to consider freedom of speech and religion, but this is not a religious organization. They said so. My fact sheet is actually from a satanic website, the Church of Satan. Imagine that. That is not them. There are, as they just said so, they're the satanic temple. But they did their due diligence. Apparently, the original TSD High Priest Brian Wesner states in his 2014 resignation video that TSD is a political organization that has nothing to do with Satanism. I know they have plenty of Satanists that are part of their organization, and in their organization, it's not required that you actually believe in Satanism, but that you adopt their political beliefs. That's a big problem. They're coming to this school for political reasons. And as much as I love Jesus, as much as I care for each one of you and your jobs that you are trying to make a decision, I want you to make the decision to actually do your due diligence and go to this organization and inquire exactly where they're getting their funding from, what their real motivations are, what their actual actions are, and how they plan to implement them specifically to these students, and not to try to sway them into a political organization. Thank you.
Speaker number 60, it's your turn at the podium.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Coretta Fuller, and I am a Chesapeake resident. I also have two grandchildren that attend two grandchildren. One attends Chesapeake Public Schools, and one will be attending, hopefully, next school year. I will start off by reading some information tonight. The vision statement. We inspire, engage, and empower all students to achieve their highest potential. Now the mission statement. The Chesapeake Public Schools family promotes educational excellence by engaging all students in meaningful and innovative learning experiences that empower them to successfully fulfill their life's purpose. I agree with that. I just read to you all the BM Williams primary vision and mission statement. I used to be a resident of Suffolk, Virginia, and even living in Suffolk, I still wanted my children to go attend Chesapeake Public Schools because you all do have an awesome school system. With that being said, I want it to be noted that we must get back to educating our children. Get back to the basics, reading, writing, arithmetic. Our SOL scores need to come up. Our children have lost a year of education because of COVID, and they are struggling tremendously to catch up. We still have parents who still choose to do virtual instruction, which is their choice. But being in that classroom, I don't think anything could take the place of that. I think we need to get our focus back on the children and off of all of these other sociological issues that are present. With that being said, I am in strong opposition to this satanic club. I think that for the after-school programs, we need to fill that with enrichment for our children. We need to fill that with more tutoring so that our children can be stronger and succeed. They are our future. And if we don't catch that right now, we're in for a rude awakening. I don't see where this club will make an impact in that area. And with that being said, I just wanted to share my own personal belief. I am a Christian. Webster's dictionary states that Satan, this is the Webster's dictionary, is the rebellious angel who in Christian belief is the adversary, the enemy of God, and Lord of evil. There are names synonymous with Satan: devil, Lucifer, fiend. And I know you have had a lot of scripture, but I did prepare this, so I wanted to read it because it is close to my heart. John 10:10 states, the thief comes to...
I'm sorry, ma'am, your 3 minutes are up. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Speaker 61, it's your turn at the podium. Could I also have speakers 63, 64, 65, and 66 come to the front?
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Colin Fuller. I'm a Chesapeake resident. I'm also a husband, a father, a veteran, and a Christian. And I strongly oppose to the club, the Satan Club in our public school system. Inherent in the name, Satan Club, should tell us everything that we need to know. Historically, there's nothing good in that. So there's really nothing really more to be said about it. The name tells us all we need to know. It is real. He is real. He's a liar from the beginning. And this is hidden in plain sight. Why cannot we see it? Why do we avoid the obvious? Please, as the board, sitting board right now, I implore you, protect our children. Thank you.
Speaker 62, it's your turn at the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
Good evening, everyone. I'm using a fake name to protect my identity and my profession. My name is Rachel Leslie. I'm a local to Hampton.
I'm sorry. We need your real name.
Lacey.
And last name?
Nope.
Mr. Barry?
I'm a resident of Hampton, Virginia.
Mr. Chairman, I think if she'll submit her real name to our clerk, that'll be sufficient.
I can do that, but I don't want to speak publicly with my real name.
Do you have, Madam Clerk, do you have her real name? All right, well, we need your real name. You can submit it to the clerk.
I will do that to the clerk if that's all right.
No, ma'am, right now.
Okay, Lacey LeSueur. My name is Lacey LeSueur. I am a local to Hampton, Virginia, as well as a member of the Satanic Temple. You guys have heard all of the bullet points. You've heard many versions of truths. You've heard very impassioned speakers. And the more and more that go, the more unhinged they've become. And the more that I see you guys yawning, leaning back in your seats, using body language that suggests that you're no longer interested in the subject, that you're tired of hearing about it from all viewpoints. With that, I'm going to paraphrase briefly the About Me sections, which I've submitted to most of you over the last 48 hours in an email, so you've had the chance to read it. To encourage good works for community, critical thinking in arts, science, no interest in religious conversion. The second bullet point, learn the gospel, get to know Jesus as Savior, and child evangelism, obedience to those in authorities. Verbatim off of both websites. Which one do you feel would be better for your child? To be evangelizing for something that they may not even know if they believe until they're much older and much more capable of understanding that, or to be exposed to arts, literature, science, and to just get to be a kid in a safe space? Where would you send your children, your nieces, your nephews, your daughters? You know, it's not a game. The Satanic Temple's been referred to by many as a game. It's not a game. It's about inclusion. Here's some more statistics for you. In Virginia, 73% of the populations currently identify as Christian, 20% are unaffiliated with a religion, and 6% are non-religious Christian, are other than. So that's 26%. That's 1/4 of you. There's, 16-ish, 15 of you up there? At least 4 of you statistically should be not religious or other than. That is 1 in 4 people in this room that are other than. That's a minority, but it's a distinct population in our schools and our kids and our families and in our society. And those children, those families deserve a safe space to give to their children so that they can be exposed to things that aren't evangelicalism, which in so many cases of my own have been resulting in neglect and physical abuse as a child, and as part of what completely sent me away from the Satanic Temple. I mean, from Christianity, and maybe become an atheist and Satanist. So how would you want to see your kids? Would you want to let them be somewhere safe where there's no conversion, or somewhere where people are forcing them to obey that authority rather than getting beliefs of their own and being in a safe space? I encourage you all to go by the Virginia state motto, Virginia is for lovers. If you guys truly believe that the state that you're a resident of, Virginia is for lovers, truly loves, I encourage you to bring that to life and include that in the community. Hail Satan.
Speaker 63, it's your turn at the podium. Please state your name and your city of residence before you begin.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Kaylee Duncan. I am a Chesapeake resident, and I am a Satanist. I will never have children, but as a legal resident of Chesapeake, I care deeply about the youth of our community. They are the future of this city, this state, and this country. I want them all to grow up happy and without fear. I want them to ask questions, to learn to be strong for themselves, because their strength is our community's strength. They deserve to be afforded the ability to see how other groups of people think, as empathy for someone you don't know starts with being able to disconnect from your own ideals to try to understand theirs. I ask you as a neighbor to be open to interactions with Satanists. I shop your local businesses. I am with you at community events. I care about your kids having a safe and enriching experience in their education. We are not that different. Now I'm going to take a minute, because I've heard a lot of this. We're worried about all the Satanist murderers and all this nonsense. Murders perpetrated by Christians, Mormons, and Catholics. David Berkowitz, the son of Sam, Jeffrey Dahmer, Timothy McVeigh of the Oklahoma City bombing, Ted Bundy, Peter Sutcliffe, John Wayne Gacy, H.H. Holmes, Ed Gein, Dennis Nielsen, Dean Corll, Albert Fish, Dennis Rader, the BTK killer, Gary Ridgway, Herbert Mullen. That's just the few that I know off the top of my head. According to a 2017 article in the New York Times, a study concluded that people of faith, organized faith, are more likely to be murderers than atheists, which the majority of Satanists are atheists. So, food for thought. In regards to sexual abuse, 1 in 10 people that have attended a place of worship with clergy have been sexually abused, with 4% of those abuses being children. So I'm going to leave y'all with that. Thank you very much for your time. Hail Satan, and hail yourselves.
Speaker number 64, it's your turn at the podium. Please state your name and your city of residence before you begin.
Good evening.
Hello, I'm Sam Tran. I'm from Norfolk. This, I believe, one should strive to act with compassion and empathy toward all creatures in accordance with reason. The struggle for justice is an ongoing and necessary pursuit that should prevail over laws and institutions. One's body is inviolable, subject to one's will alone. The freedom of others should be respected, including the freedom to offend. To willfully and unjustly encroach upon those freedoms of another is to forego one's own. Beliefs should conform to one's best scientific understanding of the world. One should take care never to distort scientific facts to fit one's beliefs. People are fallible. If it makes a mistake, one should do one's best to rectify it and resolve any harm that may have been caused. Every tenet is a guiding principle designed to inspire nobility in action. The spirit of compassion, wisdom, and justice should always prevail over the written or spoken word. This I believe. I do not believe in any supernatural deities. I worship no God, nor bend knee to any one man or God. I believe in logic, reason, and not in the vengeful gods that demand unthinking worship. I believe in science, not the death cult superstitions of Bronze Age nomadic tribes in the Middle East. The symbol of my faith is not an ancient torture device. It is a slide rule. The simple slide rule that has helped build the Brooklyn Bridge, the Hoover Dam, and the Empire State Building, as well as sending humans to the moon and returning them safely to this earth. Algebra and calculus are my liturgy. Physics is the celebration of all that exists. The saints of my faith are legion: Galileo, Einstein, Sagan, Asimov, Aristophanes, Fermi, Hawking, the list goes on. And yet, despite my lack of knowledge and obedience to the Judeo and Christian deity, I do not rape, nor rob, nor murder, nor fallow any man or woman. I do not defraud them, nor seek to enslave their bodies or their minds. I do not turn my face from them if their beliefs differ from mine, nor do I condemn them if they choose to love someone of the same sex or a different race. My friends include the gay and the straight, the atheist and the deeply faithful, Caucasian, African, and Asian. I choose to stand in the light of knowledge and reason. I oppose the darkness that is ignorance and superstition. And I know in the end it is knowledge and reason that will triumph over ignorance and superstition, and triumph over those who would use ignorance and superstition to their own evil and ego-driven ends. Thank you.
Speaker number 65 has withdrawn their request to speak, so I'd like to invite Speaker 66 to the podium. Could I have Speakers 67 and 68 please join us in the front row?
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is James Allison. I reside in Chesapeake. To me, the door is open. When you allow one in, you have to allow the other one in. I don't see why you should allow one and not allow the other. First of all, I'm against the Satan Club. All right. But of all fairness, I believe that you either allow one or you allow the other or you don't allow any of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaker number 67, it's your turn at the podium.
Good evening.
Good evening. Robert Perisic, City of Chesapeake. I'm here tonight to speak out in opposition to the after-school Satan Club. When I got news that this club was trying to come into the city, it was very disheartening to me as a parent of elementary school-age children. There's been a lot that's been said tonight, and I don't think I need to repeat a lot of the same arguments over and over again. But, you know, one thing that did ring true earlier is I don't know that this is as settled law as the Satanic Temple would like to argue that it is. The Good News Club versus Milford opinion was written in 2001. Justice Thomas looked at the fact that the school was trying to promote good character and morality. And when I look at the news articles and everything that this group has made plenty of comments to over the past couple of weeks, they've made it very clear that they're not a theistic organization, and they've somewhat distanced themselves from being a religious group. So I question if they really have any actual sincerely held religious belief at all, if they're entitled to any protection under the First Amendment, or if they'd be viewed as more of a bullying or trolling organization, and the court would look at them with scrutiny and say, you know, this group is really intending to target religious organizations that the court intended to protect, and they're not entitled to any protection. Furthermore, I've heard a lot of arguments that this is a group that's intended to provide a safe place for art and science and crafts. Well, why not have an art club? Why not have an agriculture club? Why does it have to be a satanic after-school club? It doesn't make any sense to me. This community has been in the news quite a bit over the last month, and it's unfortunate that it's been connected with so much darkness and negativity. My prayer for Chesapeake would be that we would remember this season and what it's about, we're hitting the Christmas time now. We're within 2 weeks of Christmas. It's the time where God sent down his only Son as the greatest gift to humanity for our salvation. And John 3:16 says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son. And for who shall ever believe in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life." My prayer is that everyone would know the love of Christ and a loving God, and that Chesapeake would be able to heal and rally around that. Thank you.
Chair Murphy, we have 2 speakers left. We have Speaker 68, followed by Speaker 69.
All right, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Duncan Rutherford. I'm a resident of Virginia Beach. I'm the current chaplain of the Remnant Sons Motorcycle Club, and I'm a youth leader at a church in Virginia Beach. We've heard a lot of back and forth from both sides of this issue tonight, and both sides have truth, and everybody that has spoken has obviously a lot of emotional passion behind this issue. But an issue that a topic that I haven't heard talked about yet in Scripture is, how do we treat people that are different than us? How do we treat people that believe in things that are different than what we're taught to believe? On the night that Jesus was arrested, they came and took hold of him and arrested him. At that moment, one of those with Jesus reached out his hand and drew his sword. He struck the high priest's slave and cut off his ear. Then Jesus said to him, "Put your sword back in its place, because all of you who take up the sword will perish by the sword. Or do you think that I cannot call on my Father and he will provide for me at once more than 12 legions of angels? How then would the scriptures be fulfilled? Then I must say it must happen this way." Why are we still trying to defend God when God can do it himself? The government's job is not to defend God. The church's job is not to defend God. But do you know what the church's job is? It is to love one another. John 15, verse 34 says, "I say unto you, this is the greatest command, to love one another as I have loved you. For this is how they will know that you are my disciples." This gathering here has not been a display of love from either side. And I would call to each of you to remind yourselves what your true purpose is. We're not going to win a war in the spiritual realm in a government debate hall. Paul writes this to the church of Crete in Titus chapter 3. He says to them, "Remind them to be submissive to the rulers and authorities, to obey, to be ready for every good work, to slander no one, to avoid fighting, to be kind, always showing gentleness to all people. For we too were once foolish, disobedient, deceived, enslaved by various passions and pleasures, living in malice and envy, hateful, detesting one another." And then as I slide down to verse 8, it says, "This saying is trustworthy. I want you to insist on these things so that those who have believed in God might be careful to devote themselves to good works. These are good and profitable for everyone, but avoid foolish debates, genealogies, quarrels, and disputes about the law, for they are unprofitable and worthless. Reject a divisive person after the first and second warning." It is not the job of legislation to legislate morality. It is the job of the people of the Lord to love one another. If we want to see changes in our community, we need to love one another like good neighbors. But obviously we're not. We don't know who our neighbors are, and we don't care about them. If we really cared, we would invite them out to dinner. We would invite them to come to church with us. We would invite them and accept their invitations to go with them to their events. We would listen to what they have to say, and we wouldn't be afraid of them. A lot of people speak about... Thank you.
Thank you.
And our last speaker, speaker number 69.
Good evening and congratulations for hanging in there.
Yeah. Believe me, I want it to be last. First of all, I want to thank you members of the school board, first of all, for having the patience to do this tonight. And also, you, when you ran, you probably never thought you would have this kind of hearing.
So would you state your name and...
Oh, Michael O'Sullivan. I'm a 14-year resident of Chesapeake.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mike.
And also, I'd like to thank the police officers, I think, who've done an excellent job tonight. And also the audience, I think, who's been very civil, that we haven't seen the ugly incidents we've seen in other locations. If I could, I'd like to start with a quote. "If freedom of speech is taken away, then dumb and silent we may be led like sheep to the slaughter." Well, that was said by George Washington. And I think it can be rightly said that the people who started our country felt that there should be no state religion, that there shouldn't be anybody who's endorsed, whose viewpoint in the world is the only one to be endorsed. I think that 12 families who want to be in a group and call themselves a Satanist organization are not much of a threat. We have many other organizations. I haven't seen anybody or heard anybody tonight who came up and said, well, I'm Jewish or I'm Muslim or Hindu or Buddhist. They really haven't been up here. So one of the things this makes me afraid of is that particular viewpoints are going to be crushed, and the most vocal group will come before organizations like yourselves, and that's the only one that's going to survive that test. And there will be proselytizing and groups forcing and selling viewpoints in the school system, and it will not be the voices that have been oppressed and not heard over the years. So I would hope that we could get back to, that you guys could get back to taking care of our children who've been through, and families who've been very tough times the last couple of years, that this could be seen as a divergence that's not going to help the children compete in the world. It's not going to help these children catch up with the damage to their education, and that this group having meetings along with other groups that may not share the same viewpoint as any of us don't become a focus of what we're all about here. It should be the children is what we're all about here. And again, I appreciate you doing your best for them. So I hope everybody has a safe holiday season, and we can move on from this next year, because I don't really think it's a threat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
That concludes our speakers for this evening. I'd just like to add my thank you for the civility that everyone has shown to each other. I appreciate you following our rules of decorum. And now I'm going to have a closing statement, then we're going to move on to the rest of the school board business. Thank you for sharing your comments. Our practice is to receive information. However, we do not usually engage in dialogue, and that is our intent tonight. If appropriate, not already provided, someone from the superintendent's staff will evaluate your concern and provide a response. We'll now move on to the consent agenda, and I'll intend it's moved to be accepted by Mr. Mercer and second by Mrs. New Craig. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Dr. Smith?
Motion carries with all board members voting yes.
All right, now we're on to the information agenda, and now we're on to Ms. Lucente for our monthly financial report. That's the list.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Go ahead.
Did you hear the beginning? We've received a total of $45.5 million in October. Most of that, again, is...
Hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, we're still conducting business. Please, if you're having conversations, just continue them outside. Thank you very much. Ms. Lucente, please continue.
Thank you. Again, most of that is state money and local money, and the balance is federal and other local funds. The official enrollment that was reported is under the number that we used to develop the budget. However, enrollment has been increasing since that time. So should that original 73 stand, which it doesn't look like it's going to, that shortfall would be about $400,000. But it looks like enrollment is increasing, so that shortfall will go down. Again, we don't know what the state sales tax will be or what the governor's budget will be. So hopefully we're hoping that the revenues meet and we don't have an issue. Expenditures, the salary are behind historical amounts in total, but it is in line with the number of staffed positions that we have. The savings on our personnel costs, though, have been unfortunately almost completely made up in increases in...
Ms. Lucente, hold on a second.
Okay.
The officers, if you would, advise everyone that we're still going to discuss facilities. It's just going to be at the end of the information agenda, if anyone would still wanted to see that. If security would just let the people know who are leaving It's still on the agenda. The agenda I have and the one that some of them may have been received and been were not aligned. That's why I caught Miss Vicente off guard.
That's all right.
So we're going to go ahead with the financial thing. Well, go ahead, Ms.
I'm just about done. The savings in personnel costs have been taken up by excess expenditures and non-personnel, but right now we're not anticipating any actions that are necessary.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
And we're going to stay right with you for the ESSER survey results.
And do you want me at the podium or do you want me to do it from here?
Podium is fine.
Okay.
Thank you. It'll give Mr. Berry a chance to let everyone know to make sure we're not misleading anyone. Thank you, Mr. Berry.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the last meeting, we reported that the state is requiring, not requiring, well, technically they are requiring, a new survey and an update on ESSER 3. It's required as part of every 6-month update. So what we're going to review tonight is the survey results. That survey did end on November 30th. We're going to look at the current application and expenditures and the proposed amendments and then what the next steps are. The survey results, there were requests for input in the following 4 areas, and that was again required by the ESSER 3 actual document. Questions related to learning loss, safety prevention and mitigation, academic, social, emotional, and mental health needs of the students, and any other additional feedback to address the impacts of COVID-19. The survey solicited input from parents, families, students, and citizens, teachers, administrators, and you can see the list of the various people that were reached out to, either through email or direct contact, and who provided responses in the actual survey. We received fewer results or fewer responses in the survey than we did in the original one. The original one, I think, had 565 responses. We had 373 responses this time. Some people identified in more than one area, so I took the data and just assigned them to a particular area. So about 43% of them were parents, 28% were staff, and that staff included teachers and administrators and other school employees, and 24% were students. The categories, we had 388 unique responses for learning loss, 167 for safety prevention and mitigation, 183 related to the academic, social, emotional needs, and 119 were other. And most of those others, actually almost all of the others, did not relate to in any way to COVID-19. They were other comments about the school division or suggestions. In learning loss, we basically had the same kind of suggestions for use of the funds as we had in the original survey. Tutoring services, remediation, and summer school. This time there was more comments related to before and after school, before and after school remediation with transportation provided. Again, more tutors during the day. There were a couple of comments about opening summer school to all students, not just those who met a certain criteria. Student-to-student tutoring, direct grants to family. But the ones you see here, especially the ones at the bottom, were more related to this recent survey than the initial survey. There was also requests in the learning loss for additional staff. Smaller class sizes was mentioned frequently, and that can be accomplished in a couple of ways. You have to, if you have a teacher-to-student class size that's smaller, you need a space for that teacher. You could also potentially do it by doing additional staff in existing classrooms. But as Dr. Austin will tell you, we're not having great success at finding instructional staff right now. Requests for additional teacher students. There were more requests this time related to ESL teachers and supports for ESL students, and more staff and funding for special ed. There were several comments related to professional development for the staff. A lot of those had to do with the use of technology as we rolled out one-to-one much quicker and in a situation where it was not able easily to do professional development for the teachers. There's been requests for professional development there, literacy training, special ed training for non-special education teachers. If you remember 10 years ago, we did it the opposite way, instructional training for special ed teachers. Now it's flipped the other way, and letters training, which is something that is currently, some of these are currently taking place. In safety and prevention and mitigation, most of these had less to do with COVID itself than they had to do with general safety and security in the schools. There was a request for additional custodial security and additional police, specifically at the elementary school where we currently don't have school resource officers. Metal detectors and secured entrances. The ones specifically related to COVID had to do with hand washing stations, water fountains, and upgrading security cameras, which is not necessarily COVID. And of course, the HVAC and filter changes. Academic, social, and emotional. The biggest change here was a clearly defined need by all employee groups or all respondents for mental health professionals inside each school building to provide mental health services, not guidance services and not social work services, but specifically mental health therapy, in essence, for students. They did ask for additional school guidance and social workers and behavioral skill classes for the students. And there was a lot of discussion about socialization practice for students who had been out of school or had not been attending face-to-face school during that 1 year. There was also a couple of comments about support for staff mental health and stress, and to provide additional resources to parents who may not know what resources are available. And as you probably remember, we added several FACE positions, family and community engagement positions, I think it's in ESSER 3. Can't remember ESSER 3, ESSER 2 sometimes. But we did add 3 positions, and that has greatly expanded the opportunities for them to reach out to communities and parents and line them up to the resources they might need. The additional suggestions had to do with increasing staff pay, returning to free meals for all students, box lights and technology upgrades, which are in the process of being done right now, and some comments about internet speed. Again, we're at the point where the first year of Chromebooks are at an age where they need to be replaced. That's also part of what's currently budgeted. Additional bus drivers and school nutrition workers, and several comments related to translation of forms into Spanish. So those are basically the predominant responses that we received. The current application, you've seen this budget. It was presented last time. So we have $51 million. It's about $16.7 million that is personnel costs. Oh, there's the FACE people. So it's subs, contract tracers, people that could do tutoring, curriculum writing, teacher assistants. There's 135 budgeted. I think it's 135. But we only have about 85 or 86 staffed. Again, we're having difficulty finding staff. So of that $16.7 million, we spent about $1 million. But again, you've got to remember that these funds go for another year. We'll go through the entire 23-24 year and through September of the 24-25 year. So a lot of those funds are going to be expended. Summer school programs and the software licenses and the tutoring and hotspots, there's 8.7 in there. We have spent 4.1. The majority of the rest of that money is going to be spent and not realigned. Equipment, the Chromebook and the interactive panels, 9.4 is budgeted. We spent 1.5. Dr. Faust is working on accelerating the box lights, the replacements for the smart panels to the interactive panels. So that is the majority of that $9 million. And the last 16.2 is the HVAC replacements and the portables. So $3.4 million. So the total at the original application or the current application has 62% to learning loss. And we've expended $10.4 million. There are some program proposed amendments that we will need to do just because of the change in costs. We have some realignment on costs on HVAC, salary and benefits adjustments. Some of the actual staffing for some of the positions that were included in there ended up being higher than the original expected budget. And we've had some change in software purchases for costs and additional and different software. So if we asked for software ABC and now it's DEF, we've got to put that in as an amendment. One of the items that we is in addition to an amendment is $630,000 that's proposed for professional development training for staff. And that's a responsive classroom training that's recommended out of, what is that? Oh, where is she? Jackie. What is Dr. Miller? I'm sorry. Out of Brooke Rudis's and Wayne Martin's area. Student support. Sorry. There are days I just forget things. So that's our recommendation right now. So our next steps are I'll need to amend and submit the application, and once it's approved, then we can move forward with the items that are new to the budget. We have to complete all the required documents per that superintendent's memo, and all of that information has to be up on our website by December 23rd. So it has, well, it actually says December 31st, but our last day is the 22nd. So it has to be, we have to have it up by then. So absent, I don't know that the board has to take official action on this, so this is more information on our intended amendments. Any questions?
Any questions from the board? All right. Dr. Cotton, you're up.
Thank you, Chair Murphy. For tonight's discussion, we have provided a copy of the school board policy and regulation that governs community use of our facilities. This long-standing policy covers use of our buildings after school hours. Our buildings are used in two distinct ways outside of school hours: for school-sponsored activities and by outside groups who must apply for and be granted facilities use permits. Outside groups are tenants who have no affiliation with the school where they meet or with the school division. As you will see in the documents provided, in order to receive a use permit, the outside group's application must be submitted by a Chesapeake citizen who must demonstrate residency. We require a rental fee, proper evidence of insurance protecting the division, and we also require security and custodial services at the tenant's expense. So that's important to point out. We receive and grant many facility use requests each year. The requests are considered by our staff, and this is done without regard to the mission and purpose of the organization, provided the above